Good day, everybody. We're back. We're still in the middle of Chapter 3, maybe near the end of it. I think this is the third episode for Chapter 3, so yeah, these have gotten a lot longer. We were able to do Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 in one sitting. But Chapter 3, well... Alright, so we basically got through all the stories here. Or at least we got through, I think I got through all the stories, basically. And that was last time. We basically did the whole frickin' thing. We've had enough. Battered sap, battered sap, battered sap. Let's get out of this frickin' place, man. Adler felt a longer tremor than usual as the memory disappeared. A piece of wall fell, followed by another and a dozen more. A thin breach formed in her defenses, casting a single sun ray into the darkness. It was nearly big enough for his hands or his head, but that was without a doubt the way out of her heart, as she promised. He hadn't taken 2 steps towards it when he halted in place, paralyzed by a thought. Eder knew that if he walked out of there, Sepp wouldn't let him backside again. Ever. But was he truly ready to leave? Did he really know enough to face her? Oh yeah. Eder took a moment to reflect on the entries he'd read. If that wasn't enough, nothing would be, especially since it's 31 out of 31. He headed towards the crack in the wall and examined it for a while. It didn't take a look anything less than an earthquake to make it tumble down. And what was the closest thing to an earthquake Adder had in hand? Snuck your nose in every single diary entry.
Oh.
Adder rammed straight into a wall, proving that his will could shatter rocks and bricks and mental defenses.
Whew, I sure hope that wasn't important. Alright, come on, Adder. You got this. Sam! I think I got a good idea of what's going on with you. Can you?
Enlighten me.
Eder took a deep breath, trying to recover from his fright, or rather, using it as an excuse to get his thoughts in order for the last time. What was, indeed, so wrong with Sepp to require his help? Alright, so there's 3 choices here. So we did the lonely one. I got in her way. She's really scared. I think I got in her way is probably the closest to the thing. She wanted power, and like I was just some dumb dude in the way. Because I know this was the only option before. So it can't be that. Burp.
You got your life all figured out. Then I stuck my nose in one day, and suddenly you weren't sure what you wanted anymore, because you wanted to trust me, but you knew it wasn't a good idea, but you went and did it anyways, and then it turns out you were right at the beginning, and...
Get to the point.
What I'm saying is, I think I knew how to slip past your defenses, because I made those holes myself. I spent all dawn soon ham-fisting my way into your life so my feelings could reach you, and then turned tail and ran when they finally did. No wonder you don't know how to feel anymore. I decided I'd be your knight and make a quest out of helping you open your heart or whatever. Not because you wanted to change, but because I thought that's how you ought to be. I didn't give a darn about your feelings. I know it don't mean nothing after all I've done, but I'm sorry for being so pretend to... Forget my head so far up my ass.
I was hoping for an apology all along, and now that I have one, I don't know what to do with it. I'm honestly kind of impressed by the depth of your self-analysis, Adder.
Kinda comes with spending who knows how long watching yourself be a huge idiot.
Welcome to my world.
Think I got here a while ago, ma'am.
They laughed together, and Sep's laugh felt warm and sweet to Adder's ears, like it hadn't been moons. And though the deer could tell that Sep knew that was not all he wanted to say, that there was an implicit farewell in his words that neither of them knew how to respond to, he smiled. They had clung to each other for moons, a mirage of a sense of a fulfillment they never found alone. Immature and naive at times, but not any less real for it. They would have to continue to walk their own paths, making their own happiness, far away in the frightening real world.
So, where do I go from here? How do I get out?
Oh, that's easy. I'll get you out of here.
Didn't you say you couldn't?
I just needed to keep your mind occupied long enough.
The world began to make sense, little by little. Colors, shapes, shadows, and lights began to fill into place as Adder's eye got used to reality once again. But somehow, he wasn't the only one looking the most stunned. The number of people in the audience had at some point tripled, and they were all still staring at him agape. Iligrab's face was covered in dew. Not even Elabar could keep his jaw locked in place.
Y'all feeling all right there?
Adder directed a brief, confused look at Sep. She smirked.
Lad, I always knew you had the givings of a poet, but to think you had such words hidden inside of you!
This is impossible! How can a peasant, worse, a farmer like you, have such a vast vocabulary and nuanced understanding of the allures of the agape? Your spiel was beyond beautiful. It was absolutely splendid! But I purchased Jacif's affections legally, damn it! Her love belongs to me and no one else!
Did Sir Askadeth just casually admit he's a horn-eater? Are nobles allowed to do that? You think it's a court fad or something?
Well, don't waste time looking, lads. I'm right here if you want to be fashionable.
Boo.
I don't care how many horns the nobles are eating. That still doesn't explain those hand marks. The witch must have charmed Sir Askadath to distract us. She's charmed them both. Burn her! Burn the Sephi or we riot!
Burn the witch! Burn the witch! Burn the witch!
Does she weigh as much as a duck? Oh no. Lacking torches, the mob set their pitchforks on fire. They began walking towards Sep as they chanted for her death. Adder realized that there was only one way to save Sep and to get out of this ungodly mess. True thing.
Oh, hold up! Oh, what's this? My head! Oh, what's going on? Where am I? Oh, the voices of this rock-throwing, witch-burning, bloodlusting mob have opened my eyes at last! Oh, the spell is broken! I can think clearly at last! Patron, how could you do this to me?
Ah! Get him on the person that the mob's always angry at anyway.
What? How dare you turn on me, Yotson!
This man put his hands on me and cast a spell, and fire all over the place. And next I knew, more than a dozen moons had passed, and not a contract in sight.
That is absolutely despicable! But how can we trust this truant? We only have his word.
That's not true. Look, the merchant's got hands. Witch hands. They fit perfectly fine in the marks. See? See? And you know what else? He's red, the color of fire. What more proof can any of us need, dear jury?
Yeah, that ass Hakioff is right. The evidence is overwhelming! Why did we listen to a Sephi in the first place?
You're not getting out of here alive, son of Garthath! You hear me? I'm going to kill you! And then I'm going to fire you! You treacherous gilly wet hoof! You're fired! Fired, I say! Fired!
You're the only one who's getting fired here, witch!
Puns. And so Geoff spearheaded the mob's efforts to build a pyre, taking the merchant and Adder's sentence with them.
Take it from a deserter, Pops. Better lose your job than your life.
I mean, that is true.
Adder, you're a sneaky little bastard. But you're a good sneaky little bastard. Thank you for helping Sep out, lad.
What in the actual name of Oblivion just happened?
Oh, Elbar. I told you didn't understand what a public trial would entail.
The public. Who can ever understand them? Am I right?
Indeed! It's obvious I clearly don't. I have failed miserably to channel the fickle ire of the masses towards the neck of this lowlife. But do you know which concept I have an excellent grasp of? Executions!
Elbar, don't be a sore loser. The town has already pronounced its sentence.
Listen to him, Sir Askadath. Revenge is pointless. Keep your head. You can still be a hero in my eyes.
This is not about heroism. It's a matter of honor. You have mocked me as you please, one-eyed scoundrel. But I shall be the one to have the last laugh. Die!
Elbar fell upon Adder with the might of his cutlass as he screamed. His blade didn't cut flesh as it descended, but metal.
Stop this assault at once, Elbar!
Hey, look! It's his brother. Adder opened his eyes, finding an unexpected hero hovering above him.
Bearbeth?
Guy I punched in the face? Bearbus had diverted the course of Elbar's sword with his parrying dagger, making his half-brother hit the ground instead.
What? I mean, my lord, I'm glad to see you standing, but I don't believe you're properly awake. Why did you stop me? Isn't this the one-eyed scoundrel that dared attack you in the first place?
He did attack me, yes, but he didn't do so without reason. I was the one who started the incident. This deer is innocent. I have come to pardon him at Aina's behest.
Aina's what now? What did you do to my boss, Four Eyes?
I merely welcomed her to my palace. Even after my grievous attack on her person, she found her way to me, seeking to share the news of your impending death. You are truly a fortunate man, Adder. Aina's loyalty may be the most remarkable of her features. But I digress. It would seem that I suffered a brief bout of amnesia following the blow, prompting me to disregard her at first. But her arguments were so swaying that I could not bear to remain idle another second. I had to put an end to this injustice.
Then, this venison's claims were true after all? You attempted to dishonor a doe?
Well, I wouldn't say dishonor, or doe, but the point stands. Addled by my insatiable curiosity, and my need to be right, I gave in to my impulses and acted in a completely unforgivable way. I would have absolutely struck myself given the occasion. Not quite as hard, however.
I am beyond befuddled by this turn of events! What would you have me do, my liege? I have already drawn my sword dramatically at him!
Oh, let it be. Throw your sword against the pavement or curse the skies with it. It will make no change to the fact that it was no deer's fault but my own. And perhaps his a little.
Mr. Bearbeth,
There's nothing to be said, friend, truly. I should have not insisted so stubbornly. I still don't believe Aina could be anything remotely alive, in the traditional sense of the word, but I believe firmly that my behavior was out of place.
An apology is the least I can offer. And besides, Aina promised to let me inspect every nook and cranny of her body if I came here to help you. Look, I have this signed note right here. Oh, I can't wait to follow up on my previous discoveries.
Adder didn't manage to make one single step forward before Iligrab grabbed him and lifted him off the ground.
Adder, no! Think happy thoughts, but not too happy. Think about our lessons on the importance of self-determination and the dangers of infantilizing women!
Right! Yeah! Saving me was mighty kind of her. And if she wanna keep promises and do something like that, then that's her business. Give me a moment, I think I'm gonna throw up.
Adder tumbled away towards a discreet corner, holding his hands over his whole face. Elbar did much of the same, but in the opposite direction. Iligrab followed suit to make sure he didn't change his mind.
And speaking of discoveries, hello, dear. What's a subject like you doing here?
Man, what a sleaze. Sep's tail sprung up in horror as Barabbas began walking circles around her.
Lord Askadav, it's an honor to meet you again. Perhaps your memory is a little fuzzy after the incident. We already met some moons ago, remember?
Oh, that is absolutely preposterous! Concussions rarely affect a long-term memory, and this is far from the worst blow I've received. You must be mistaking me for some other hornless deer. I assure you, I would not forget a frame like yours quite so easily. I had read about large gazelles during the heyday of Bazaxarat, when food was abundant and the vast majority of tasks were carried out by golems. But I'd never had the chance to examine an overweight Bahan with my own eyes. This will be a fantastic addition to my anatomical compendium. I'm going to need height, weight, age, and a few extra measurements, if you don't mind. I think I'll name your case Quaint Occurrence of the Cervine Gazelle Type. You could even pass for a doe.
Foregoing the need for permission or a single intelligent thought, Barabbas gleefully produced a wax tablet and a stylus from his scrawl.
I have to admit that you do look somewhat familiar, though. Aha, I see. You must be Elbar's kitchen maid, correct? Oh, I understand now. Someone has been sneaking into their master's pantry.
Slap him. There you go. Everyone left in the plaza turned around upon hearing the slap, everyone except Barabbas, who lay unconscious on the ground once more. Sep just stood there, her hand still held midair.
Jasif! What is the meaning of this?
Sir Askadav, this is not what it looks like. It wasn't me, it was...
It was the witch. The witch's curse.
Adder! What did you do?
Say what? Don't look at me! I was just puking my guts out over here!
Inside my mind, you walking pile of cervine dung! What did you do to me?
Oh! Well, I just, I had to make my way out somehow. I saw this wall and it was about to fall, so I just gave a little push and... Let me guess, that was your patience? Am I right? Boy, oh boy, do I got a good eye for these things or what? This is why we don't mess with people's minds.
Adderson, son of Gurfath, I would strangle you with my own hands if I wasn't so convinced that your brain hasn't received any oxygen in a decade!
Babe, how could you do this to me? I was willing to forgive your bizarre infatuation with this rube. I could have forgiven this offense you cast upon my house. But how dare you lie so brazenly, woman? I saw you slap my brother with my own eyes!
But I didn't want to do that. I mean, I did, but there's a perfectly sound and valid explanation for this.
Tell you later!
Adder, no! I have to...
Betrayal! A knife upon my heart and soul! This treachery shall not stand, Jasif! Guards! Fetch them!
A marabonta of guards threw itself over the runaway couple at Elbar's command. A group of them outran the rest quite easily, leaving Adder and Sepp completely flanked, but not yet stopped. These guards that moved with feet light as the wind kept showing up where Adder least expected them, herding the two into one of many alleyways that formed the sulk. And then they ran faster yet, forming a wall blocking the entrance to the only escape path left. Adder hadn't dared break his run as he approached the spear wall. Surrounded from every angle, and with dozens of guards chasing him, he could only run forward. But he didn't get impaled. The guard line in front of him separated momentously into two groups, letting them pass in the alleyway completely unharmed. One of the spearmen yelled something as Adder and Sepp crossed that line. Something that was definitely not Cernar. They regrouped in a second, closing the entrance to the alley before the rest of the guards crashed against them like a wave of helmet spears.
Did they just...
Adder couldn't finish the sentence as he never learned from his worst flaw. He forgot to look ahead. And so he ran headfirst into a wall, one he couldn't break with his head. One made of fur, armor, and gleaming eyes.
Boss?
The weather's changed a lot while you weren't looking, Puppy Eyes. I'm your boss now.
Uh-oh. I emptied my stream of conscience down onto the driest silence, barely able to keep a smirk away from my face at the thought of Lynn screaming at me for leaving her hanging on such a dramatic note. Lynn? No response. My theatrics was a hit deeper than I thought. It's alright. It was just a memory. No one's coming for... When I turned around, Lynn isn't even looking at me anymore. Her face lies flat against the table. Lynn? She died. She's dead. I scared her to... Oh. Never mind. I slipped my staff back and let her snout fall softly to the table once more. In what looks like a slightly more comfortable position. Or at least one where she wouldn't drool over the pages and fly off the handle when she wakes up. Foolish kid. Falling asleep at the best part of the story. In front of a stranger, no less. The world must have truly changed a lot since the days I was convinced I too would be a normal person. Or is this some sort of ruminant compliment? Does it mean you don't find me scary? That any half-assed attempts at basic decency I could have offered you were enough to allow yourself to rest easy around me? To annoy me with such forthright proof of inferred trust? Is that it? Are you actually capable of being cute sometimes, you bug-eyed imp? Lynn lets out a sleepy whistle breathing noise in response. No, of course not. You're just another dumbass without a care in the world. A bona fide mortal that's gonna get me dragged into their tedious affairs. I guess this is my cue to leave then. Then again, I can't possibly leave without getting mad at you for this. Yes, I should wait until you get some proper rest and then scold you for being a slacker. How long does this sleep thing take again? Just a few hours, having Lynn look straight into my soul, I no longer feel at ease, waiting with all these thoughts bouncing in my head and no one to pull them out of my ears. This is why I hate mingling with mortals. I feel like decades have passed between night and morning. No, it can't be. Was it really just this morning? After rummaging around my pockets, I finally grab a hold of my sketch pad. I felt moved to capture the shape of the hills in the distance as dawn broke, and sure enough, the ink still looks fresh. It was most certainly today. I am back. I thought I would know Iligrab like a long-lost enmity. A relative you don't want to run into, the loudest of them all, but that was far from the case. The streets were no different, but the paths now led elsewhere. The purveyors of their crowds remained ever shifting, screaming praises about all the times one could ever hope to need or want. Everything had changed and everything stayed the same, unaware, uncaring, blissfully unbothered by my presence. Everything until...
You seem lost, traveler.
I faltered in my step, having the strangest impression, a nostalgic feeling, something that couldn't possibly exist. I felt like the fawn was addressing me.
Hey, you! I'm talking to you!
Though hope was rare, a rare commodity in my heart, I still turned my face towards the little bluster, surely calling out into some other mark in the crowd.
Heed my words, Craven! Your silence and your hat shall not hide you from me, for I am the blood of old Sephi! Your thoughts stopped being yours alone the moment we first locked eyes.
Grave mistake. What did...
Yes! I see it crystal clear! What does this amazing young gazelle want from me, you ponder? Word for word. Totally not actually looking down at me at all, but no matter. What I want is of no consequence to me or to you. I can tell from your staff that you don't hail from these lands, and from your garb that you don't come from this age. An enigma has brought you to Heirloom, Orchid of the Steppes, and muddled your heart with fear. But deep down you know, you need not solve it alone.
Unforgivable stall positioning, pitiful decoration, boorish costuming, terrible characterization. A child playing dress-up has somehow perceived me. Yeah, okay, I suppose you'll do. I'm looking for a deer, or rather, what's left of him. Does the name Adderson ring a bell for you?
Ring a bell, you say? Ring a bell, you say? Thank your luck, Pilgrim. You shan't take a step further than you have, for this whisper of a great soul is so ingrained in my mind that it may as well be my own. I have a tale to tell, if you have a coin to spare.
Can I just get directions to an archive or something instead?
That'll cost you two.
We sure are back in the capital. Fine, this better be good.
There's no finer story in all of Dakna. For if in Heirloom you hear rumors of a knight, there is but one name that should ever come to mind. The Knight of the Upper Field, the hero that fought the odds and went from humble beginnings to the star of stardom. Adderson, the Beast Slayer, the swordless knight that changed the fate of the kingdom for the rest of eternity, bringing peace to mortal kind and uniting the ruminants under one flag. Where didst thou cometh from? Where didst thou wend? If thou hearest mine own tale truly, then leaf, thou shouldst know it.
He didn't sound like that.
What?
Adder was a farmer. He didn't know half the words you said.
I knew that. I was just taking artistic licenses.
Your eye patch is on the wrong side of your artistic license.
No way! Everyone knows the knight was missing his right eye.
Everyone is wrong then.
Oh, so you're the only person in the world that knows the last thing about him. Is that it?
Basically.
Why?
I knew him.
You're kidding, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bye.
Oh, wait, what? Wait! What kind of reaction is that? You really knew him?
Nope, farewell. I really should have ran away right then. I wouldn't have to deal with this nonsense if I had done so. This is taking much too long. Tired of reminiscing, I peered over Lynn's side of the table. It's only now that I notice a page peeking out rather conspicuously under her nose. Are those doodles? So kids these days like drawing, huh? Though from the way she's holding on to them in her sleep, it's clear she'd rather eat them than let me have a look. I grab my staff and take a few tentative steps around the little miscreant, careful not to wake her up. She spent the last eternity looming over a private tower of sheets, wet ink, and an empty bowl of canned almonds before she bummed off me. Yes, indeed. It is I who provided the tools of the trade and ensured the continuation of her existence so she could focus on writing. I deserve to know what kind of content I'm enabling.
Oh, don't eat the soup. It's made out of soup. Oh.
Undeterred, I stretched my arms towards the page she was working on once more, trying to drag the page away from her grasp. It's almost mine. Just a little more.
I'm awake! I'm awake!
So you are. Now help me up, will you?
Promise you won't rip my guts out for falling asleep?
No. Lynn crouches down next to me to purportedly hand me back my staff, casually shoving the sketch page behind her.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
The obvious problem seems to be that you stopped writing a while ago.
But what? No, of course I was writing everything down. I mean, I was trying to. It's not like I didn't want to write, but I've got this thing when I eat lots of sweets at once, and everything goes wobbly, and it's even worse when I'm tired, and...
For God's sakes, Lynn, if you're not feeling well, you should just say that. No, it's ADHD.
No, I'm alright. I swear, I can handle this. We're doing something important here for the honor of my family and stuff.
Your family? That's right. There are people waiting for you. Look at me, preaching about past mistakes, when the present is staring me in the eye. I can't believe I forgot something so basic. Let's just leave the story here, Lynn. Your parents must be worried sick about you.
No! Look, I'm awake. So awake. I don't have a curfew or anything like that. Just get me some coffee and I'll keep writing all night.
No. I have things to do when the sun's out, and I don't plan to add taught a children that crunch is any good for development to the list of crimes I have committed today. Well, that was kind of like, it was an interesting statement, but it was kind of feels a weirdly out of place. It's like very meta commentary. It's kind of like one of the first of its kind, but it's funny, but at the same time, it's like it kind of feels out of place. Come on, little Orble, I'm walking you home.
I can't.
You can't?
I've been thinking a lot about it, and I can't decide if I like Gator or Gilbar better. Sure, Gator has that morbid, age gap, forbidden love-ish kind of appeal, but Gilbar has so much chemistry that I believe it could actually happen, you know? I also think that Isif has a lot of potential.
Isif? Oh, you mean Sepina?
Basic, but I can't deny it has a great ring to it.
You're basic. Lynn doesn't reply. She merely sinks her head farther into the desk as she scribbles something. I wait for the eventual comeback that I know she's meticulously composing in her mind, but it never comes. Instead...
Wait! Don't go! I'm not lying, see? We can't stop here. I don't want to go until you finish the story. Don't go! Please! I'm going to write even faster. Stay a little longer.
A different question begins to take shape in my mind. Lynn, there's something you're not telling me.
Gee, there are a lot of things I'd love to tell you that you don't want to hear. You'll have to be more specific.
About you. Lynn stares at me for a good long while. Eventually, she returns to her doodles.
You don't want to know that either.
What would you know what I want, brat?
I knew you'd say that too, but it's still better than the alternative. Trust me, it's for your sake.
Nonsense. I know gazes don't work like that. You're just deciding what's best for me on your own. How are you supposed to know what I need and what I don't have a clue about?
I thought that was what the last chapter was all about. That we all need friends because you won't ever know yourself as well as you think you do.
We're not. Take your eyes off my thoughts already and go do something better with your fleeting life.
So, you really don't want me to write anymore?
No. No, let's just go back to writing. Yes. I tell you the story you write. That's what we came here to do, not waste time chit-chatting and lazing about pretending to be friends. Lynn puts a hand on the bridge of her nose, and I'm very nearly about to head for a bridge and swim to another town myself.
Okay. Look, I don't know if I'm skilled enough to deal with... I don't think I even have a name for whatever this is. Let's just stop freaking out for a minute and talk about...
The tip of my staff is just sturdy enough to split as it hits the ground. My scream is the wooden echo that bounces all over the library. You want to know the story of your ancestor? You write. That was the deal. There's nothing left in the room but silence. I know the way Lynn must be looking at me, even through my turned back. I know the way I would be looking at myself, at least. I barely dare to turn my snout towards her when I hear her stretching her arms over the pages.
Wow, that's so... Oh, that's so scary. Alright, so what was it? Who dares hurt Aina? What are we fighting now? Did the Makadar find Adder at last? Was it the moneylenders with the knives and stuff?
No, not yet. We can't talk about that yet. I feel like there's someone I'm forgetting.
Someone with thumbs, horns, and an overly helpful disposition, apparently.
Yes, you're right. That is just the person we're missing.
The prophecy?
What prophecy?
My prophecy!
So, about that Safina content.
Let's just get this over with.
Right, Chapter 4. Everything you aren't, or the importance of faking the virtues that you lack. Not that far from the fateful corner where we left off, missed perhaps by a matter of minutes, linguistic skills, and general irrelevance to her life, there walked a goat, or there certainly attempted to, though through the bustling streets were yet to know her, ordinary as she looked, caked in red step dust, and dressed like a mere caravan keeper. History would remember in her completely different light.
She had a prophet!
She was really short.
Oh.
A petite ibex, with horns so curled and large that the combination would have looked rather comical had Servine society not been obsessed with the way it was with horn size. To the average deer, she would have surely seemed a rather formidable opponent. Seen from any other less distorted angle, however, the goat could have been a tiny girl in an infinite city, marching to the beat of her own drum. And her timing could not have been any worse.
Find them! Find those traitors! They can't have gone very far!
Excuse me,
The size of this newcomer was so below the Escornian average, in fact, that she was just about a whole head short of reaching the necks of most of the locals around her, appropriately equipped only to address open collars and high belts.
Beasts! I saw them! It was a pack of beasts! Are you out of your goddamn mind?
You can...
Golems! It's an army of golems!
One can tell me how arrived to the Temple of Hate?
Out of the way!
Catching an elbow with her face while she traversed a panicked crowd ended up being, therefore, a matter of statistics. The goat lost her footing and plummeted backwards toward the ground. Instead of flagstones and a nasty new chip in her horns, the girl found herself falling on what felt like a prickliness of some sort.
You're going to have to speak a little louder than that for anyone to hear you today, lassie.
Lassie?
Still stunned, she slowly dragged her eyes up from her pine needle cushion, soon met with two golden eyes that sat like ambers drops under a helmet. Her head stopped spinning long enough to finally spot the giant tree amongst the deer.
Bisected! That was bisected just now, right? No, that's not. I mean, I understood it. Your speech was perfect. A respectable sibling. I'm so sorry. I should know better than to question the wisdom of a child of 2.
You would be the first one, really.
Anyway, I'm so glad you're here. I couldn't even find my way past the market. This place is so different from home, and there are so many people, and everyone walks so fast that I...
The goat squeaked in terror as she was lifted in the air by the collar of her vest, but the fright soon came to pass as she understood why. It was simply to be moved towards the giant tree man's shoulder.
Why don't you take a deep breath and hop on up before you get trampled, darling? Come on, I'll give you a lift.
Please, I wouldn't dare impose on a sibling like that. I don't mind being a little lost. I brought enough money to pay for a guide, see?
The goat opened her brimming purse eagerly, flashing the result of months' work to the crowd around her without a second thought.
You have no idea how lucky you are that I found you first.
Iligrab sucked air through every crevice of his bark, making his mustache wriggle along a pressed smile.
So, the Temple of Iligrab, right? I was just headed there myself. Oh, what a place! Always a fire to put out for the little brother, like right now. I mean, there will be one going on when we get there. It's a lot less concerning than it sounds.
Do apna dare, Jao. Jao will do.
Really? How very fitting for the occasion. Hey, you wouldn't happen to be looking for a job here in the city, Miss Temple? I hear a vacancy's just opened up.
With the Ibex moving to accompany the space left by Adder, all the pieces but one had been set at last on Iligrab's board. It may be wise henceforth to return our attention to the man of the hour. To fully do this time, however, we would have to submerge ourselves in all 5 senses, for all 5 of his senses. For all 6 of them would be important to remember. Taste, sad, with a tongue drier than the ground above his head, and a stomach bereft of all food as usual. Curious enough by choice for once. Touch, sadder, miserable as it were, missing the chance of an eternity of mental hedonism that he gave up a couple of hours ago, now limited only to the feeling of a cold seat under his tail, and a noose still embracing his neck quite uncomfortably. Smell, worse yet, constantly clogged up by the persistent yet distant scent of something awful that he wished would just disappear, and a dozen foreign herbs and oils that he wasn't familiar with, burning along the walls covering it up. Hearing, worryingly bad, a cacophony of water running constantly in the background, creaking metal and light breathing, coupled with the occasional banging of something against a nearby wall. The sense itself good enough. Sight, other than the usual disability he faced in his day-to-day, well, how do I put this? Through many a talk, well into the night, Iligrab had done his best to help Adder understand that his experience as a stag in Alcatraz was a rather fortunate one, even through his own social standing within the Arcane themselves was not the greatest. He understood in principle and in matter that his perspective in life was a very limited one, and he kept discovering the limits of his knowledge with every new friend he made, and they remained friends because he was sorry and he got better. And it didn't matter how funny and obvious some concepts seemed miles and years before he met them. He knew that words and jokes hurt others, and he appreciated his friends would chew him out if he ever forgot and said so and so. He was, however, quite wary of accidentally coming up with any so-and-so that could get him chewed in around this new, unfamiliar company of fluffy creatures with glowing eyes, spiky ears, and spiky teeth. A company that had so kindly seated the terrified stag at the helm of their empty marble table and surrounded him with nothing but rows of particularly moist, pearly white smiles. And though, yes, he kind of wished he could travel back in time to 5 minutes ago, when he was all nice and unconscious, hoping for swords and not teeth. It was that sixth sense I mentioned that made him take a hand to his burns and keep his butt glued to the seat, knowing it wasn't just his neck on the menu. Better start making friends. Fast. Alright, where are y'all from? Or I'm Adder. I'm going to grab myself some parchment, because that was a lot of talking I had to just do to transition there. Where are y'all from?
You folks from out of town?
Mm-hmm. We've been sailing for quite some time now.
Sailing, you say? So y'all are sailors in here. Darn, I'm so jealous. Always loved the sea, but I ain't never been on a boat before.
Yeah, you are always like, where are the wolves and the dogs, man?
Oh? So how are you liking your first time on a ship then?
Adder swiveled his face from side to side, confused. As it turned out, the dining table wasn't the only marble piece in the room. Both the matte ground and radiant slopes that curved onto the ceiling seemed as if carved out of a pink-veiled veined pearl, turned deep blue by the darkness and warm yellow by candlelight. Though such a sight wouldn't have been out of place for the palaces inside of Adder's imagination. The air inside was so biting that it seemed bleak night had come early. It might have been colder yet if it weren't for all the flames illuminating the room and the rugs, fur rugs, not fluffy blankets like those made out of bush feathers, actual hides. For far too long to belong to any type of rudiment Adder was aware of, but little did that change their effect.
It ain't quite what I expected.
Yeah? It doesn't get much nicer than this, living in the sea. Though, I'd rather be moored just about anywhere else. I'll give you that.
Hey, Dreamus. The creature punctuated her complaint with a sharp huff, clearly more bothered by the odd underlying smell than Adder was. Moored, the buck repeated internally. He had no idea what that word meant, but he had a hunch that the vessel wasn't precisely moving. He planted his hooves firmly on the floor, trying to feel the ship rock, letting the beast's growl and the beating of the wall fade into the rhythm of the whispers of the running water somewhere below him. Wherever they were, it didn't sound like the sea, and that was everything Adder needed to glimpse the faintest ray of hope.
Well, I don't want to make y'all feel like I don't appreciate the way y'all saved my behind back there, but I got a couple of friends waiting in line to kill me next, so I reckon I should get.
No way! You're really going to leave after all the lengths we've gone to into making you dinner?
There was a brief disconnect between Adder's stomach growling loudly at the mention of food and his brain's best attempts to spell out to him who the main dish would be. His so-called new boss turned towards the other creatures and growled something. Unlike Ina's abrupt sounds, hers had a complex and rhythmic quality, an inflection to them that made them feel connected and purposeful. The crewmates soon came back, carrying a fruit bowl filled with radishes, Adder ventured, from the chunks of fresh turf roughly carved out of the land with roots and decaying leaves sprouting out of their sides. As if to finish the garnish of the dish, a maggot crawled out of the soil and onto the table, only to get politely pierced by the claw of a crew member and placed atop the radish once again.
I have to admit that we're not exactly well versed in deer diets, but I was told that you were rather fond of roots and tubers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't keep messing up on you. Let me know.
No, you got that right, ma'am. There ain't nothing in the world my belly loves more than good old roots and tubers. Mm-hmm.
Stuck refreshing. Hold on. Well, not sure how I can fix that. It doesn't seem to be showing us any issues on my end.
Good. Eat them.
Oh, I'm eating them all right. I'm eating them even if it's the last thing I do today.
You're still not eating them.
Well, of course not. It's poor manners to eat for the host.
Not where we hail from, pup. In fact, none of us are going to have a single bite until you're done.
Yeah, no, that's the part that worries me, actually.
The creature sitting right in front of Adder cocked her head to the side in confusion, and then back to Adder's line of sight. The row of frothy mouths that waited behind her vanished into whistles and gargles.
Please excuse my crew's manners. We haven't had any fulfilling meal in a while, so they're a little on edge.
She turned and to growl something again, prompting a general whine. A stronger exchange ensued, making the crew around her scutter away between mutters and huffs.
You have nothing to worry about while I'm around, of course. Perks of being the captain. I get to keep all the best bits for myself.
Well, it sure is reassuring to hear you got a taste for quality food here. That must be a real shredded venison, because I'm nothing but the scrappiest of scraps. Ha ha!
Only 2 people remained seated around the table, and one just decided to stand up from her chair.
So, are you going to eat your deer food now?
You know what? I think I'll pass. It ain't you. It's the noose, see? Won't let any food through at all. saved from the paws of justice just to fall into the maws of starvation.
The tension in the room was so thick he could have slashed it with a knife and thrown it towards Adder's face to hopefully make him shut up. Because if one thing was clear by the proximity of the captain's snarl to his snout, it was that she wasn't going to let that happen on its own. The fanged creature yanked Adder towards her by the long end of his noose, intent on dredging every last sound out of him.
You're going to have to try a little harder to fool me, dear. How did you find the way to Heirloom? Who do you work for?
Sorry, are you hearing that? Probably. What is it? Sorry. Is that it? Ah. What the fuck? Something weird's going on. Hold on a second. That it? You done? Nope. I don't understand why it's doing that. That might be it. Maybe. So, one of the USB things was acting up, so I tried to unplug them one at a time. I think it was the Tundra motion tracker.
You, apparently? I asked for directions along the way. Is this some sort of trick question?
His makeshift leech couldn't stand a second tug. The edge of her claws cut right through the rope. Finally got rid of the noose. Yeah, it was the sound of his brain. Before Adder could even blink, he found him pushed back into his seat with the creature looming above him, poised to rip every last tendon from his bones. Oh my god, really? You've had this frickin' keyboard forever. Why are you frickin' installing shit? Anyway.
I know rot when I smell it. I was told we had to make sure a yellow deer would get hanged, not a... What are you, some kind of jackal? Pitiful.
Even though any movement could have brought his death about faster, even through the proximity of those teeth, should have curled his blood and rendered him frozen on the spot.
I don't know where you learned to make your ruminant sounds, Jackal Cub, but they taught you completely wrong.
The sight, instead, felt so familiar.
I mean, you know, I learned my A's and my R's from my mom, Pa. But to be completely square with you, I don't think they ever really got half of what I said either. At least I can blame it on my accent when I'm an heirloom.
The creature's ears flicked forward. She glanced around as if wondering where his fear had gone, and then shrank further back, sheathing her teeth behind her lips.
Explain this monpa to me.
You know, it's when a deer and a doe love each other very much, and then, you know, they have kids, like parents do. I'm not sure how y'all,
The captain took a long look at Adder as he awkwardly bumped his fists together, peering at him from his blushed face and his jittery hooves, and then back up again. Her nose twitched. Not quite satisfied with the results of whatever it was she was doing, she curled her index finger into her thumb and then snapped it at Adder's horn.
Ouch! Hey, that's not very nice!
With her free hand, she grabbed Adder's mouth and snapped it open, way past the point anyone's jaw should ever extend.
She could be friends with bearbeats. Sheesh.
Fleece my face. Flat teeth! You're an actual deer after all. You're just like half dead or something. Oh, you should have told me, you scallophead. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so funny. No wonder you weren't scared. I bet deep down you were all like, oh, this Echo Wolf doesn't even know how litter making works. Am I right? Right? Come on, Pup, you can laugh. It was great.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was, 'cause I totally know what any of those words mean.
Hey, you have to do the thing. Do the thing again.
Which thing would that be now?
The words. Do the funny thing to the words when you speak.
Oh, you mean my accent? It's the darnest thing, ain't it? Tantroo's finest. I'd say it's a knee slapper, but if I slapped my knees with these flappers, I may just have to crawl the way back home.
Right? That's not what the other deer looked like. You're so thin I could snap those brittle arms of yours in two with a single bite. What a meager meal you'd be.
A thin trail of drool slid down one of the creature's sharp teeth on Adder's shoulder. The deer's apple bobbed up and down his arid throat, praying that it wouldn't become the next focus of attention.
Couldn't agree more, ma'am. There's so little me left, it's a wonder I'm not see-through yet. I don't suppose anyone's told you about this funny little thing called mange.
Through the creature's expression remaining unreadable as Adder listed the many reasons why he would not, in fact, be apt for consumption, it was clear that there was a shift of sorts in her general demeanor. She had loosened up somehow. A toothful half-grin decorated her face by the end of his spiel.
And that's why eating venison would lead to the end of your whole species, so please don't kill me.
You're such a weird little deer pup.
As a good thing?
Oh, yeah. I don't need to know many grazers to tell you're a strange one. You make me want to sink my fangs into your neck and bite you open just to know how deep the weirdness runs. But not in an eat-you way. That'd be a waste. Do you get what I mean?
No, not at all. Can't say I do, ma'am.
No, I suppose you wouldn't. Maybe you'd be more than a pile of bones if you did. Hey! That sounds pretty great, doesn't it? Lucky you! I found you a name. From this day forward, and for all cycles to come, you shall be known as Bones.
Afraid I already got my own.
Bones.
Yep, that's me. Pile of bones. Nice to meet you.
Man, you're a howl. I can see why Aina wanted you to come so much.
Aina? She wanted me here? Hold up. Aina was the one who called you back there then, right? Where is she?
Don't worry, puppy. You'll be back with my sister before you know it. She's having a little break after our welcoming party, but we still wanted you and Dad in on the family dinner.
Sister? Dad? You mean...
Told you.
You know, our father.
What now? She missed an opportunity right there. That's the writer. She could have had her turn around the whole You know, when a mama wolf and a daddy wolf love themselves very much. So that was Adder, moving right next to the wolf on board. A change in management, a rejected turnip, and a planned family reunion. But the boy hadn't arrived at this place alone, of course. Unbeknownst to him, the intermittent beating of noise that he kept hearing somewhere on the other side of the wall was that of two long, crimped horns being rammed desperately against the small cracks in the marble. The smooth, pearl-like wall threatened to shatter a soul in a million pieces before its owner could cause any significant damage to the brig, where she was being kept.
No! No! It can't end like this! This is not how today was supposed to go! I can't get eaten now of all times! This is not... Get it together, Sep. You're starting to sound like Adder. I'm going to skin that sidling piece of rotten bracket's tail and wear it as a wig! So, you're trapped in some kind of cell with no way out. Big deal. This is basically your natural habitat. Worst case scenario, you burn this place to the ground, change your name, and go live amongst the goats where guilt can't find you. No, Sep, we talked about this. You can't just burn away all your problems. That only creates more of them. So, you agree we're doomed then? Gods, I don't know why I put up with you. You need help.
Sep slid down the wall until she fell on her butt, nurturing the terrible headache she had brought upon herself.
On that, we agree.
It wasn't easy, alas, but she finally gave up her half-hearted attempts at splintering up her horns and resigned herself to the fact the only kind of help she would be getting was the self variety. The absolute worst. No one else to blame if that failed. The only light source in the entire room was the faint glow that seeped through the door frame. The same crevice that carried Adder squawking to her, and the only slew of worrying noises. As her eyes got used to the dimness, the half-light became bright enough to reveal that she was locked in some kind of storage room, full of armor suits, metal crates, snail cages, a pile of oddly shaped amphorae, a hammock, and a mop. Oh, we actually get to search the room. Sep gawked at the tool. It looked to be a mop of sorts. It was a mop, surely, even though it had some kind of tightly compacted fur instead of seaweed fibers, like Acazonian maps. Sep had heard about mops. She had seen several servants use them in years where rain had been so extraordinarily bountiful that the argillaeous grounds of Illyrium essentially sweated all the excess water that had leaked out of the lakes and rivers around the city. Sep observed the mop further. She didn't exactly know what the purpose of a mop was, but in the brief period she thought about it, she came up with at least 10 new uses that history had never even considered until that moment. Hung up rather precariously upon two metal crates tilted from one way to another, a hammock occupied the right corner of the brig from the door. Sep didn't dare come any closer, noticing the weight making the fabric sag, until her eyes got used to the darkness in the far end of the room to reveal that its occupant was some kind of extremely spiky cabbage conspicuously wrapped up in the blankets. 6, 7, 8 full armor suits, complete with spears and a mound of detachable antlers piled up under them. Sep wasn't an expert on smithery or armor by any measure, but knowing a thing or two about getting arrested and having wide access to the keep, she definitely was quite knowledgeable on what the city guard's uniform was supposed to look like. Someone had gone to great lengths to make sure the beasts blended in amongst the rest of the guards when the time had come. And someone had gone to much greater lengths to make sure nobody was looking at them too clearly. The amphorae piled the corner of the brig were reminiscent of a commercial Bascarian pottery Sepp had the chance of reading about in the temple's library back when she was still welcome there. This describes exactly who someone's not familiar with backpacking. It's a thing, right? What is this thing? The vases definitely looked like they were made to transport liquids, most likely spirits or oil. That's the mop. Then you had the snails, of course, the dozen or so woven snail cages hanging from hooks on the roof or piled up wherever they fit. It was the only thing Sepp realized, that the nasty little things had bitten through their enclosures and slimed their way through literally every corner.
What? How dare you call them nasty? Snails are the cutest creatures on Knock.
On a scale of from creepy to wet, the brig was dark, slightly moist, and overrun with snails.
This is disgraceful. Slander! My Sepp loves snails and thinks they're adorable.
Well, Sepp tried very hard not to think about how much she loved sitting on trails of snail slime as she mustered the last of her willpower to settle her stomach and continue to search for something that can help her break out. Do I have to click on something again?
Lick them up! What the? What? No! We're going to die. What's the problem?
Upon closer inspection, she realized at last that was no cabbage.
Oh no. What are you doing here?
Sepp had no idea what a twist of fate had brought them together twice in barely one day after keeping them away for a whole decade. But the porcelain-skinned smith lay completely immobile, with her green head turned down and her back turned to Sepp. That old filthy cape was still attached to her neck.
Weren't you supposed to be in Burbus's palace or something? How could the beasts get you too?
Nothing. Not the faintest of rustles.
Aina, come on! This is no time to sleep. They're going to devour that sweet little apprentice of yours if you don't get up right now and break us out of here!
Ignoring favors and requests wasn't exactly what we would call out of character for Aina.
Some all-powerful cursed being you are. Always looking the other way while someone eats your boyfriend.
Ignoring such provocations, however. What level of apprehension she rarely felt towards anything in her life. Sepp put a hand on Anna's shoulder and turned her whole body around. Anna's expression remained frozen in complete neutrality. Her eyes were wide open, set far beyond anywhere they can see. Sepp drew a hand to her mouth, barely able to hold a gasp at the sight. She snapped her fingers in front of Aina's eyes, trying to prompt some sort of reaction from her oldest friend. Nothing. The gazelle turned for a moment and took a very, very deep breath.
She's not really deceased. She's not a person, no more than you are. You know this. Aina, I know you're immortal, God's sake. Don't worry. I'll let her something out.
Aina remained completely motionless. There was an empty look in her eyes that no promise could erase. But Sepp knew that it could be changed. She had to set it in action. She had seen it in action a very, very long time ago.
I bet it's his fault somehow. Or mine, perhaps? I did ask you to make sure he wouldn't do anything stupid. Perhaps that's too great an undertaking even for an immortal furry fossil like you.
Sepp's eyes narrowed into a line as she pondered her own words.
Was this part of the curse? Will my body and soul turn to stone as well when everyone forgets me? It looks to me like you have somehow managed to have far more friends in exile than I do in misery, Miss Ghost.
The ground rocked slightly under her feet.
All right, let's start there. Ghost. Let us define a ghost as someone who, despite having their connection to the Hatsa completely severed, refuses to die a physical death. Oblivion is an ordinary enough fate for a cruel and unusual punishment. But this cannot be the case, because then you would simply not exist. You would not live in the memories of any creature the way you do, or if you did, you certainly wouldn't last a day. But there is such a thing as ghosts that rise to prominence and have their memories stored collectively. A presence leaving hoofprints in the snow for travelers, or a cloud in the sky that announces bountiful rain. Small gods. You wouldn't be exactly dead, in any case. But quite honestly, you don't seem to be alive as far as I can tell. This is lifeless, even for you. But Iligrab said you are not physically capable of dying, be it wounds or old age. So I guess you're just kind of indisposed.
Sepp nodded to herself, content with her conclusions thus far.
This must, therefore, be an intermittent state, the dichotomy between being lifeless and lifelike, only decided by something that keeps you connected to all of us. Something like a pulse that keeps you active, but that you're not receiving now. A bond tethering you to the Hatsa, surely.
The word golem barged into Sepp's mind quite uncomfortably, but she couldn't find any good reasons to kick it out of there. None of that didn't look like fangs and rippling muscles under Ina's torn up shirt, and as far scarier the possibility that she had something to do with the fact that they both were locked up in some kind of beast den where Adder was still outside.
Suppose it is a physical malfunction. Something must have knocked your connection out of place. This would mean not only can you be hurt, but killed. You just don't realize so. Iligrab would be wrong then.
What'd you miss? I don't think I saw you here last time. Last time we basically went through Sepp's memories and lots of Sepp/Adder fan service, as I would say, but also a lot about Sepp's history, and now we're on a pirate boat of some kind. Yeah, canines kidnapped us. I think they're canine pirates or guard people or something. Sepp found Ina in the brig here.
Suppose that it is a matter of the soul instead. Whatever bond has been keeping you alive is failing. That would mean you cannot function without the external source that is providing you the power you require to function. Just like a golem.
Sepp fixed her eyes on Adder's oversized scarf, then on the face that she looked up to as a child, now more at peace than she'd ever seen her before. Her face, truly nothing, looked like motionless marble, masked Sepp had seen on doll servants Tyed had so adored. And yet not a single breath came out of Ina's nose. Her skin felt cold to the touch, like alabaster. She was obviously gone. Sepp slipped her right hand into Ina's shirt, following the deep plunging line of her collar, where traditional wisdom would have placed both a heart and a golem's core.
For your sake, I hope I'm wrong, Ina.
Sepp's eyes began glowing blue against the darkness of the room.
But I'd better not be, for my own.
So you're saying you're Ina's sister?
That I am.
The patron's daughter?
I could be. Describe the patron.
Red, angry, Ina's father.
Oh, yeah. I am the daughter of the patron, too. I'm sure they'll join us soon enough. You can just ask them if you don't believe me.
Oh, no. It ain't like I don't believe you, ma'am. I simply didn't know.
You didn't know what?
Aika's eyes narrowed into a line. Her neck and snout, on the other hand, seemed to telescope towards Adder.
You have heard the thunder, haven't you, Bones?
Yep, there was the thunder. Before Adder could damn himself with another word, an orange blue flew into the door and across the room into the opposite wall, door included. The stunned wolf and deer needed a few more seconds to realize that it was Sepp on the ground now, looking like a cartwheel attempt had gone very wrong. Oh, looks like she did awaken Ina and got punched through the wall. They all turned their heads to the source of the impact. A trail of smoke zigzagged in the darkness beyond the newly reformed threshold, filling the room with an acrid smell of burnt fur and blood. A purple-eyed shadow followed suit. The beasts gathered enthusiastically around the doorless brig, and the smith plodding out of it.
Well done, Dad! You managed to fix...
The wolf's joy was cut dead short when she finally noticed Ina's whole body stiffened up at the sight of the rest of the crew.
Oh no, not again.
Ina leapt towards the Croesus crewmate, biting and walloping whoever had the misfortune of standing in her range. She was a one-woman band, playing an impromptu concerto of barks and whines and all sorts of pain noises.
Sis, be nice! We got your deer back in one piece.
Being well acquainted with this kind of overstimulated Ina starting a brawl situation, but not with the basics of first aid, Adder carefully grabbed Sepp's body and dragged it under the table.
Sepp! Sepp, darling! You alright?
That's the last time I do anything for myself ever.
What happened?
I was right. That happened.
The table cracked and quivered as Ina and the beasts exchanged blows and somersaulted over it, threatening to crumble entirely over the remnants' heads.
Dad! Tell her to quit it!
Adder followed the voice quizzically, wondering if perhaps Peridot had somehow wandered in while he was distracted, but no, there was no trace of the old man. Even Sepp looked just as disoriented as he was, though she had a much better excuse.
Dad, I'm talking to you! Do something!
The captain's snarl peeked over the edge of the table, followed by an arm firmly clamped on between Ina's fangs. Sepp and Adder had exchanged a panicked look. Drop it. Maybe, allegedly. I don't know if I trust this captain lady. I think she's got she's a little estranged. So does Sepp say drop it, or does Ash say drop it?
Ina! Drop it!
Ina and her sister both plunged to the ground, frozen solid. Everyone in the room stood dead still so as to avoid alerting Ines further. But first of all was the leader of the beast, who was struggling to form words in any existent language.
It's not that I don't appreciate you stepping in, but I meant my actual father.
Right. Ina's dad.
Yeah, the patron.
Not her,
No, it's fine, pup. I'm not judging or anything. You don't have to put a label on it. I heard your relationship with my sister was special.
The only thing special about this hobbledehoy is how specially insipid he is! Open your damn mouth, Aina!
Confused as she was, but not really sure wanted to know what the hay was going on, Ina opened her jaw unexpectedly obediently. Her teeth made the ugliest sound as they separated from her sister's arm, leaving a trail of blood and slobber behind her. Adder felt so queasy he barely managed to fight the need to fall on his butt at the sight. Sepp audibly gulped, almost jumping out of her skin when the captain put a hand on her shoulder.
That would be the one.
Ika walked away nonchalantly, like such a gory scene hadn't just happened. Adder actually managed to fight his nausea long enough to tilt his head back. He only caught a glimpse of Sep's reaction before immediately turning again.
Good thing you haven't eaten today, Dad.
She's got it all wrong. I'm not. I mean, she can't even call me
Dadder. What wouldn't I have given to see Pertog's face?
Want me to fetch you a mirror then, ma'am? Come on, get in character already.
Anna moved her eyes towards her apprentice as she wiped her mouth with her arm. She could only give her best, "I'm trying not to die of a heart attack, so please play along," shrug in response. Anna took one last look at the room, at Sep and Adder, and the creatures watching her every move. She seemed severely unimpressed with it all. Without another sound, she grabbed the door that she had sent flying, walked into the brig, and put the door back in place, sending a very clear message to her audience. Both ruminants and beasts stayed at a standstill for quite some time before anyone felt safe enough to breathe and move as they usually would. But once they were over the scare, there was nothing in Dakana that could have stopped the wolves from celebrating. They played music, clapped, laughed, and poured unknown drinks into large rusty metal cups that extended to each other. Daughters. It wasn't quite easy to cheer, drink, and relax for the significantly less bite-proof deer and gazelle, however. Even so, Adder eventually helped Sep up from under the table once it became obvious Ina wasn't going to chase anyone, legs quivering like they could collapse at any moment. Surely, noticing their lack of cheering, Ina's sister slithered back to them, carrying a couple of extra mugs meant for her guests that they would never have dared refuse. Adder stuck his nose in his cup exploratorily, only to get his snout whacked away by Sep.
That could have gone better, eh? Whoever said a wolf's bark is worse than their bite never met Aina.
No, Aina's a big old sweetheart. If she gives you little nibbles, it just means she likes you. That or her teeth hurt. Maybe she's just bored. Anyway, trust me, if she'd meant to bite you, you wouldn't have come out alive from that one.
Adder didn't understand the look that Sep was sending in his direction, but it certainly was a look.
That's very reassuring, to hear she wasn't even trying to kill me then. I guess it runs in the family.
The tall beast raised her cup and took a sip from her drink, giving Adder a look at the arm that was completely covered in blood.
Still, you may want to do something about that.
Eka looked up from her mug, finally sparing a quick gander towards her incredibly concerning injury.
Oh yeah, you're right. Someone should do something about this. Well, am I gonna have to lick it clean myself, you peck of sea mutts?
One of the beasts barked something, rather meekly. Ina's sister angrily barked back. The barks derailed into a whole screaming contest, one more that kept Sep's eyes and ears looking surprisingly alert.
You getting any of what they're saying? Any clues why we're here?
I wish, but no. All I can gather is that they speak some sort of guttural, gargled drivel with minced bits of Bazoktet in it, like every other language I know. It's not like I'm trying to listen to their words, however.
Sep raised her eyebrows at Adder as she tilted her head back toward the pack. Adder mouthed an "oh," as if the idea took form in his mind. He squinted his eyes dramatically towards the beast, focused all their attention on their eyes.
Bark! Bark! Woof! Bark!
They were saying something about having you lick her.
Lick her wounds, right?
Sep glanced quietly at the broken plates on the floor.
She did bring you dinner first.
Oh my gosh, really?
You are all meant to be part of the dinner, in fact.
Both Adder and Sep jumped into place. The tall beast seemed none the wiser to their horror.
Do you have any idea how long we've spent preparing for tonight's party, Dad? The great Aina has finally been returned to us after 30 cycles. Nobody could be missing in this reunion. Or at least, nobody that fit inside the ship. We'll eat and we'll dance and we'll sing under the stars until we lose our minds. I I made sure to gather enough snails for the whole crew. It's gonna be a crazy night. We'll show you grazers what a partying beast looks like.
Doing good, Summer. How's it going? Yeah, I think because of a little, a few beers short of a six-pack. Ika grabbed Adder's hands and started whipping them up and down as she dragged them into some sort of improvised dance.
And then we'll take over the city and feast some more. They won't even know what ate them.
Adder lost his grip and accidentally got sent flying against the brick wall. A shuffle in the adjoining room, a single purple eye peeking out into the dinner room after hearing the commotion, and widened upon seeing Adder laying on the ground. The door swung open. Before Ina could rush to his side, however, her sister craned her enormous neck toward him and picked him up by the horns.
What's wrong? You're smelling a little scared there, pup. It wasn't the brawl, was it? Am I walking too quietly for you? I heard it makes Deer nervous, so I brought some clickety boots I can wear while you're here if it helps.
The tall beast bumped her knuckles together and clicked her tongue, poorly imitating the sound of clopping hooves. Needless to say, Adder remained frozen in shock.
Ooh, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the feast part. But don't worry, we don't plan on eating all the deer. We'll just eat the bad ones. I hear you have a surplus of those.
How will you know who is who?
Don't worry, Bones. We'll know.
The beast's toothy snout contorted into surely seemed like a comforting smile to her. She grew tired of the effort soon enough.
How can I get it into the grazers' heads that they're safe and allowed to breathe around us, sis? I don't think our sense of humor is connecting.
Ina barely shifted her eyes towards her sister. Now that she'd realized the danger in leaving her apprentice alone, the smith had repositioned herself in the corner of the room, closely watching his every move, hackles raised and fists ready to meet whoever attempted to even sniff the air around her. Unbothered by Ina's attempt to look menacing, the tall roof growled something softly, almost consolatory. All she got for her effort was a fierce snarl. Whatever it was she said, Ina wouldn't have it at all.
So you're still not down for tonight,
The beast's tail swept from side to side.
Bones, come here.
Yes?
I bet my sister is still mad at us because she doesn't understand why she wasn't allowed to fetch you when you were hanging by the neck.
Oh, that'd make two of us.
See, she wanted to jump into the crowd for you, with a lot of knives. Tried to bludgeon one of my poor littermates to death, she did, thinking they were a guard.
The beast pointed towards one of the canines who let out a whine as they rubbed the back of their bandaged head. Adder didn't need a translation for that one.
Would Aina killing everyone in the plaza and exposing our mission have made you happy?
No?
Right? She didn't need to do anything to begin with. You showed the wits of a fox and fended for yourself as long as you could. And when you couldn't fight alone anymore, dear fox, tell me, who saved you?
You did.
That's right. We did. Our pack.
Wolf pulled away from an increasingly terrified Adder, standing to her full height in the middle of the room just to twirl around for Ina.
Look at these ear tufts, sis. Look at them. Hear this raspy, dreamy voice. Who else could have a bumpy snout like this, teeth so sharp, fur so fluffy? Who would dare call you sis over and over?
Ina's frown turned deeper. She remained unimpressed.
Hey, Bones! Tell her who I am.
You want me to tell her who you are?
That's right. I want you to tell her all about this.
Well, what's the deal with this one, you ask?
You've never heard of the Herald of the Storm? The Scourge of Alar? The Fangs of Hector?
Tell her, guys! Tell her!
A deep, tense silence filled the room.
Oh, my crew don't actually speak a word of Sirnar, but thanks for the sentiment.
It's Eka!
That Eka?
That Eka!
Which Eka?
Tesseka! The one and only, two-named, The one who will devour every shore! Oh, okay. Okay, no. We need to bring it down a notch. I don't have the lungs for this anymore.
So I will note that, like, we just learned Ekka's name, and, like, a previous thing that this game was doing was if we didn't know the name of a character, that until they were introduced, like, they would just have a general descriptor, where in this case that didn't happen. We knew, like, her name was Ekka, unless it came up before, but I don't think it did. The bark sounded suspiciously like Snickers.
You really have to quit eating raw snails, Captain.
Back off, whelp. Don't embarrass me in front of my family.
You know what would be embarrassing? Dropping dead from lungworms.
Not the time, whelp.
Is that really what they're saying? They seem kind of goofy, don't they?
Goofy? Goofy? Adder, have you heard any of the things she just said?
Course I heard, and I've seen them too. Who do you think had to wait in a room full of beasts all on his own while you got to hang out with Aina?
Aina kept turning her head between the pack of wolves barking nonsense and the two idiot glaring daggers at each other and mouthing words for no discernible reason.
I'm not going to die from eating a few snails.
I'm just saying, they're a little less scary than I thought they'd be, that's all.
So help me, Adderson.
Fine. I guess we can just find ourselves a new Ekka when you...
Humph. Everyone in the room turned around to look at Aina, who in turn seemed just about ready to start another fight. Everyone except for Ekka.
Yeah. I get it now.
With a long, tired sigh, the driving emotion behind which nobody could even start to decipher, Ekka meandered all the way across the room toward her sister and then knelt down next to her. All the sea wolves followed her lead, kneeling down alongside her. Ekka motioned them to rise up again.
It's not what you expected, is it? Not me, not the ship, not this whole thing. It never is. And the fact that you've been expecting it for so long probably only makes this stink all the more. You of all people would understand, right? The sea is always different. But it's the same sea, after all.
Aina's eyebrows started to crease her forehead. Ekka let out a short chuckle, realizing that whatever metaphor was meant to imply, it wasn't really coming through.
I know we arrived earlier than you wanted us to. I'm sorry we had to drag you here like that. And I'm sorry that you didn't want to see us yet, but I was very excited to see you. You know that much, at least.
Though she hesitated to do so for a moment, Aina finally nodded.
You're very strong. You've been here with Dad for so many cycles now. Cycles that we've spent thinking of you, sharing what we've learned, making our home a better one. And if we braved the shifting seas, it's so your new friends can be free to have a better life as well.
All of a sudden, Ekka pulled Aina into a deep hug.
I just want you to know that we're here, Aina. You're not alone anymore.
Aina stared emptily ahead for a few seconds before finally nodding into the crook of the fluffy neck embracing her. The wheels of her mind were spinning much faster than they usually did. Too many feelings clashing against each other, sparks of memories that she couldn't quite recall. But if there was one thing she remembered, it was that she had been so alone. Alone because she was alone, wasn't she? Her eyes moved quickly between Adder and her sister, as if asking for permission of some kind, to feel something she wasn't supposed to feel. While she found in Asler's expression right at that moment instead, it would haunt her for the rest of time. Right now, however, Ekka couldn't afford her the time to think about it.
I guess this must all be very confusing for the three of you. The short of it is that we've been hiding an heirloom for a couple of weeks now. All hush-hush, as it were. Like I said, if I wanted our reunion to be this huge party that would knock you off your feet, we'd have to make all sorts of preparations. Cue my surprise when we got word that not only did the bear men know we were here, he expected us to be fully equipped and ready to attack at a moment's notice. So we got orders to show up today, just to let your little deer helper cry and die and make you all miserable and sad, and I was having none of it. So I figure, hey, who's the boss? I'm the boss. I have the perfect big day present. So here's your pet and your debrief, sis. The deer is safe, the crew informed, and we only got seen by like 5 grazers. Mission success!
The whole crew howled in response, which was cut short by a tormented scream somewhere far above their hiding place.
I mean, mission success as long as the deer stays here. It's chaos up there. But don't worry, we'll fix that soon enough.
Adder and Sepp shot a desperate look towards each other. They had to do something before this whole fixing fiasco, ipso facto.
So, about tonight. I mean, sure, you could attack the city today and all, but, never mind. This would surely be talking out of place.
Yes, Pup? What is it?
Well, you see, all that ruckus up there is 'cause I'm real friggin' important. Yep. The guards are losing their minds over me missing.
Are they? Then why did they try to kill you?
'Cause I'm so important, as I said. I'm kinda, hero. Yep. A mighty one-eyed hero that helps everyone he can. A knight, as we call him here.
Sepp hid her face in a hand, trying not to commit murder on the spot.
But there is glory in acting selflessly for the pack. I don't understand.
Ruminants ain't no pack. We're just bunches of folks getting kicked by the unfair lords that got more power than us. And the deer with power, they felt so threatened by my helping anyone, they put an order out to end my life. Steal my assets! Eat my food! Separate me from my poor beloved boss before you were boss! Oh, my sweet little Ada!
Adder pretending to cry as he shuffled his knees towards the smith. With the hand he wasn't covering his face, he made a come-hither motion so that she would understand.
And now that you and me are both reunited at last, I just hate to see the family divided, to cause the whole mission to crumble to pieces. 'Cause everyone in the city's on the lookout for Adderson, son of Garfath, of the Upper Field.
Aw, is that all? You have nothing to worry about then. We can handle a couple of deer with swords.
Adder tapped Ina's back increasingly fast.
Fine. I guess we can delay the raid a couple of days so you can hang out with your deer. It's not like we had official clearance to do anything yet anyway. But, to make up for it, you have to come partying with us tonight. Or I'm taking a spare rib from your special pet. Does that sound like a good trade?
Ida nodded her head at maximum speed as she ran to give Ida the most crushing handshake Adder had ever seen in his life. Her hand looked positively tiny next to Ika's, who clearly struggled both to understand the gesture and to keep her paw wrapped around her sister's wrist. Tired of this pantomime, Eka simply pulled Eka into a rib-crushing hug, lifting her off the ground. Ina didn't murder her on the spot, meaning she was kind of happy about it.
Hey, boss. Mind if I get a celebration hug, too?
Sure, Bones. Get in here.
No, my bad. I meant Aina. You know how it is, boss. Horse habit and all.
Oh. I suppose you want some privacy, as you say? I mean, sure, whatever. It's getting pretty early for us. We were thinking about heading off to bed anyway, weren't we?
No one needed a translation for the disheartened growls Eka got from her crew.
So yeah, you two get all the time alone you need in the brig, like your boo-boos better and stuff. Let's say you and I catch up in the meantime, Dad.
How dare you propose something so reckless! I will not leave these salacious whippersnappers alone in a room without supervision!
Yeah, I thought as much. Well, don't have too much fun without me. Seriously, don't. We're trying to keep it down. Secret mission and all. Good talk. Catch you later.
Eka closed, C repositioned the door after shepherding everyone into the brig. The storage room remained at a standstill until the wolves started barking loudly and partying again in their rooms. Aina and Adder finally crossed gazes once more. Uncertainty shook her to the core. She couldn't even start to guess what was going through his mind now that they were gone together at last. Before Aina could start to gesture or anything, Adder leapt towards her and tackled her to the ground.
Boss! I really thought I never could see you again. You missed so much stuff. I got hanged 4 times, but I survived. Then I got a trial, and I could read while I was in the maze, and we won. So Elmore tried to kill me, and please tell me the Beast Pirate lady wrote the note to Barabbas, and she got you all confused with a different Aina?
Aina pushed Adder away way more aggressively than she needed to.
Right, sorry. I know you can't tell me any of that, but you can let me know that much at least, yeah? You never ever seen those folks before?
Aina scratched the back of her hair, looking anywhere but at her. She finally shook her head.
Wow, that's convincing.
Aina's lip curled upward into a snarl.
Oh, what a wonderful row of amazingly sharp teeth. Very ruminant-like. I can't even start to imagine where the confusion came from.
Aina's teeth are Aina's teeth, and they got nothing to do with anything right now. All that matters is that we're together now, and we're an unstoppable duo. Nay, trio. Brains, brawns, and backbone.
Which one were you again?
Listen here, Missy. I don't know where we are, and I don't know what's gonna happen to us. But we may be the last sad chance the city got left in surviving a beast invasion no more. Nothing will stand in our way if we decide to become heroes today.
Both Sepp and Aina turned around to glare at Adder.
Or not. Maybe not. Way to make it about yourself, Adder. What I meant to say is that as long as we ain't dead...
No, you're right. I wasn't thinking straight. We're all going to die.
No, let's not.
I'm going to die, you're going to die, and she's going to bite our tails off when we're not looking! Oh, you're too good to eat me, are you? I'll have you know that I'm delicious, you feral heap of...
Voices in the other room stopped for a second.
Patron, stop! I swear I meant nothing with your daughter.
I say, you're the most useless deer I've seen in my life! Obstreperous venison!
The silence continued for a couple of seconds. Soon the laughter and cheering started over again.
All right, everyone. I know this is going to sound real rich coming from me. But we got to calm down. Deep breaths. Use them lungs. Come on, boss. You too. Get those chompers over here if you gotta. No one's eating no one. No one's going to die.
I'm going to die.
In your comfy bed, when you're old and wrinkled, surrounded by a herd of bulky, bumbling stags wearing itty-bitty clothes.
Will you be there?
I will. I'll be the one holding up your pastries platter.
And will you cry?
A whole darn river. Gonna drown everyone in the room. They'll think all that water's what got your tum so round.
Said the deer with the bloated hands. I hate you so much.
Look at that, patron. You sound just like the real deal.
Adder and Sepp shared a giggle together as they rested their foreheads against each other. The peaceful moment wouldn't last long, however, when a sharp, peripheral pain in Adder's forearm reminded them that there was a third person in the room. Aina pointed at Sepp, then at Adder. She folded her arms as her glare deepened and the drumming of her foot quickened, leaving the room little room for interpretation.
Right. We're all missing some introductions here, ain't we? Boss, this is Yusuf. Sepp, this is Aina. I know you both. And I guess you already knew each other, too.
Oh, trust me. I'm well aware of who the cabbage head attached to a girl is, but as much as I've tried, she doesn't seem able to return the favor.
Ina nodded cautiously under Sep's resigned expression.
Why am I still able to remember, but not you? Does it have something to do with these beasts?
Adder opened his mouth, only just now realizing that how much more he knew than either of them. Alright, that's actually... let me save this here. Mention the stolen memories or remain quiet. The curse goes both ways. What's that even mean? Alright.
Maybe it's because Pertok stole your memories when you were a kid.
That could be a valid explanation if I was struggling with my memories, but she's the one who can't... Wait, what did you just say? He stole my what?
Your memories? 'Cause he wanted you to be free to make your own choices or something?
He what? No, come on, we don't have time for this.
Sep took both hands to her temples, trying to still her emotions into something mildly manageable.
If what you're saying is true, I'm sure he would be just as apt at manipulating Ana's memories as he was with mine. He could have chosen to take her memories of my family away, and that is far more distressing than any ancient curse. Why would he ever do such a thing? What could he hope to gain?
No, I don't think it was like that. I think he thought he was doing y'all a favor somehow.
He is a merchant three's sake. There must have been something in it for him. There must have been.
Ina turned her head, worrying between Sep and Adder, unable to fully comprehend the conversation that they were having, but perfectly aware of how grave it seemed to be.
Don't worry, boss. We're not really sure what we're talking about either. I mean, we got no way of knowing if someone messed with your memories or not. We'll figure this out together no matter what.
The look he got told him that Ina didn't believe him for a second, but it was enough for now.
So what's our next step then?
Huh? Why are you asking me? I'm still on plan duty?
Who do you want me to ask? The double agent?
Ina would have defended herself from the accusation, but she didn't know what that turn of phrase meant.
Right. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather be just about anywhere else in Dock now right now. What do you say we jump ship and let Sleeping Beast party?
I say I'd love to share your optimism, but that's an idea, not a plan. I've already searched the brig from top to bottom. There's no way out from here, and I have no intention to arouse anyone's hunger walking back into the dining room.
3 heads think better than one, yeah? I'm sure if we just racked our brains a little.
One of Eka's underlings will have time to check up on us while she pretends to be asleep. This is the real world, Adderson. We can't afford ourselves eternal time to come up with inanities.
Why not? Let's go back into your thoughts while we come up with something half smart then.
I don't know how I did that, and I don't even know how I could ever hope to do it again, having you around me, constantly trying my
The calivation was shut short by a small explosion of bone-like splinters and the sound of something falling into the water shortly after.
What the? Boss! Hey! Where are you going? Don't just... And she's gone.
Case in point, we're dead.
Hey, what part of keep it down didn't you understand? Wow. Okay. I'm going to guess the hole in the wall was just made by...
The artist behind Hole in the Brig #1.
Yeah, that tracks. Man, I really thought I was finally getting through to her. Why'd she go and run like that now, huh?
Ada turned turned a desperate glare towards his patron.
How should I know? She's an unrepentant gobbler gobber, and she never tells us a thing!
It's a mystery.
Whatever. We'll just have to go fetch her again. Any excuse is good to make my littermates stretch their legs and sniff every corner of the city. Bones, grab a mop and clean up this mess. And the shell, since you're at it. I want to see it sparkling when I'm back.
Clean a mess and look after your paw. Piece of cake. Aye, aye, Captain.
You what?
You got it, ma'am?
He thinks I'm his mom. I seriously can't get enough words from you. Hey, tell me about this cake thing when we're back. I want a piece too.
Neither of the two people remaining in the ship dared to breathe again until there was nothing but silence deep in the darkness beyond the gap. It was almost nice like this, really. You just had to forget the sight of the beasts, the constant humidity, and the stomach-churning miasma seeping into the room that made both of them cover their faces and retreat into the dining room immediately. After a few moments trying to breathe in relatively fresh air and not whatever that was, Adder opened his mouth to do more than cough.
She did it on purpose.
Excuse me?
Aina didn't just run away because she felt overwhelmed. She caused a huge distraction for us because she knew the beast would follow her. I'm sure that's it. Oh, how come I didn't get that earlier? She's so clever.
Sepp gawked at the boy. Words failed her.
You know, Adder, I really feel like this whole ordeal has given me precious insight on how you managed to have such a lovely extra-laboral relationship with your boss. It can't be easy having to share half a wit between two people.
She managed to solve the beast problem for us, didn't she? That's one more thing that you've done.
Taking a very determined decision to not pay heed any whatsoever to what Sepp said next, Adder took a deep breath and ran into the brig. His companion barely dared peeking in. After a few moments, rummaging through all the items in the storage room, Adder finally settled for the mop. That is, the stick with a bunch of fur attached to the end of it that only conceptually resembled a mop as Acazonians understood them, and rushed right back.
Please tell me that thing is the weapon of our murder-suicide, and you're not about to wipe the floor with it.
I'm trying something here. We could turn to violence if this don't work.
Well, as long as you're open to it.
Adder scurried back out. Sepp observed as the boy leaned out of the new gap in the wall after Ana's escape, doing his best to avoid breathing a single puff of air or dragging his neck through the splinters. Once out, he struck his stick as far as it would go into the space below them.
These ain't exactly what they call shallow waters where I'm from, but I reckon we're both tall enough for 'em.
As Adder pulled out the bizarre tool, he realized that the water dripping from it was particularly slimy. Adder moved his snout a bit closer to the end of the mop, following a deep-seated instinct to sniff out every unknown particle he stumbled upon. Sepp could only gag from afar. He put the mop down and snorted all the air out of his lungs.
Fancy a guess where they took us?
Before Sepp could reach out to stop him, Adder jumped out of the boat and into the water.
Shit.
Kinda. But hey, look at it from the bright.
Find me a silver lining, Adderson. Find me one, and I swear that I'm going down there just to show you where you can stick that mop.
I was just gonna say, the water only reaches up to my knees. And anyway, you were the one who said you'd rather take a bath in the sewers than put a finger on me again.
It's called hyperbole. You should know that, as you're extremely well versed in it.
Oh, well darn, thank you.
Defeated by her own pettiness, her limited options, and Adder's lack of vocabulary, Sepp carefully slid herself off the edge of the brig and into the cloudy waters. She stood very still for a minute, no doubt appreciating the way her boots, pants, and shirt were unable to filter out any water.
I thought you said it only reached up to your knees.
Yeah, my knees. Careful now. Wouldn't want to trip here.
Adder walked a couple of steps into the darkness, trying to encourage Sepp to do the same. Sepp took a deep breath and promptly regretted, and then a single step forward. Yeah, exactly. Shit. Something squeaked under her foot, slithered away, and made Sepp slide and fall on her butt, causing a new splash.
Congratulations, Adder. You finally dragged me down to your level.
Come now. You know this is still a couple of pegs below me. I ain't been avoiding your big bro's generous offers this long for nothing.
Oh, you figured that out.
Adder stretched a hand towards Sepp, which she took reluctantly. Then he helped her feel her way towards the sidewalk. Both Sepp and Adder looked down at the cause of her misstep. It was a vine as thick as a tree root, a wriggling tree root, or more like a whole thicket of them. They both followed the sight upwards toward the origin. The ship, bright golden dots flickering above them like a constellation. A configuration of fungi, most likely, but this was not the moment to leave a single possibility up to chance. A pair of radiant spears joined the scene, this time right beside Adder. The sky blue eyes shining in the dark nearly gave him a cardiac arrest, familiar as they were.
Quiet.
An orange glow followed after, radiating from Sepp's palms. The light grew in intensity until it was like a torch pointed directly at the heights they just jumped from. That was no ship. Hein had somehow managed to punch through a gigantic snail's oval shell, reinforced with some kind of reddish metal on the outside, and tagged with cages, grills, and flags. Hundreds of slithering vine-like appendages have spread from the depths of the shell, blocking the sewage tunnel behind it.
What is that?
Oh, they don't fly on a ship, I guess.
I don't know, but I guess we ain't going that way.
As if sensing an ill will of some kind, or perhaps just attracted to the light, the cluster of eyes turned towards the couple of escapees. Sepp and Adder found themselves frozen at the sight. The living ship started to crawl towards them, vines bunched up like little feet soaking like little water they could find to propel itself through the tunnel. First awkwardly and then heavily and faster and faster. Now it was only inches away, giving them clear sight of its hooked mouth. The creature threw its vines back, launching itself towards the ruminants, only to have its momentum cut dead short. Stopped by two thick metal anchors, tying it in place. Their story might very well have ended there if it had managed to advance just a couple of paces further. No matter how much it lashed its vines around, trying to reach the deer and gazelle, its efforts were in vain. Adder had already lifted Sepp onto his arms and started running downstream, much farther than the snail could ever hope to reach them. They rushed away, praying to every god above that the creature wouldn't think of giving chase to them again. Though it had been a long while since their initial scare had passed, Adder and Sepp's hinds remained firmly entwined. Neither of them would be negligent enough to bring this up, of course. Adder let his eye linger over the thin strips of light that illuminated the sewer as they walked, doing their best to keep any beasts, mollusks, and past relationships that he hoped to rekindle out of his mind.
You wouldn't happen to have a map of the sewers somewhere in your mind, would you?
Yes, Adder. Studying public sanitary infrastructure layouts is just my idea of an entertaining second night.
Was that supposed to be sarcasm?
It mostly was, okay?
Ha! Nerd!
Lynn, you're in no position to laugh. Nerd. Sepp took a deep breath, reminding herself that her hobbies weren't under much scrutiny when it came to Adar.
This is mere speculation, but judging from the speed at which the water is flowing and how they managed to sneak a thing that size under the city without flooding a whole district, I'd wager we can't be too far from the sea.
Hold up! What? That's where all the crap goes in heirloom? What do y'all use to breed your fields then?
Is it truly indispensable to you that we speak about manure while we're waddling through it?
I'm just saying, I'm starting to see why nothing grows around these parts. Back in my town, we just take a basin and...
Don't. Not another word on the subject.
Speaking of nerd, her words echoed through the tunnels, making the intervention all the more dramatic. 1, 2, 2.5, 3. Sepp counted herself the seconds before Adder opened his mouth again. The count ended at 6 3/4.
So, speaking about sewer stuff, Taylid, huh? Talk about family resemblances. Wowee.
What is that supposed to mean?
Nothing. I'm just saying y'all threatened to kill me twice per sentence, but I would have never guessed y'all were brother and sister when Miss Rochelle threatened me that one time.
That's because it's supposed to be a secret. Like so many things you keep digging up.
Why?
What do you mean, why? It's obvious, isn't it? Mr. Tay-Tay is too important to let his reputation be tarnished for being related to a hobo and a whore.
Sepp, I'd never let anyone call you a hobo.
Wah, wah, wah.
Dumbass.
1, 2, not even 3 seconds apiece this time.
I mean, what reputation are we even talking about? You ever hear the stories of the things that happen down here?
Only the ones tangentially related to me, but I'm positive I can't stop you from sharing.
See, me and Gilf toured the place a couple of times when things were real bad. Dead folk don't miss coins, or so he says.
You sound disgustingly okay with that.
Can't get queasy handling corpses when you're about to become one, man. Besides, most of them come fresh out of the arena. It's gotta be somewhere around here. That's where them noble types like to bet in secret. The poor fighters that give it a go end up rich or dead. Mostly dead. All the nasty stuff is Taylid's turf, but there's lots more to this place. There's houses and markets and doctors and all sorts of folks who'd rather live in the dark than risk getting caught in the daylight again. I even heard some say they've seen beasts down here.
I suppose we can cross that one off the rumor list.
Not really, he kind of ran away from a big old frickin' snail. A sudden clank on the ceiling made Sepp flail her incandescent hand around in panic, nearly slamming into Adder's face.
Hey! Careful with that thing!
It's called a hand, though I guess I can't really blame you for not knowing what one normally looks like.
Sepp pried her non-glowing hand away from Adder's grasp, making sure to leave quite a bit of space between them. Adder stood behind, suddenly paralyzed by the urgency to run after her, and the confidence that it wouldn't ultimately solve anything. So he only moved his mouth instead.
You still mad at me?
Mad? I mean, do I look mad to you? Why are you even asking me? You're the one who spent an eternity scavenging for scraps of weakness. You'd know.
Look, we've been doing the whole I insult you insult me worse thing all day long. And I get it. There's a whole lot of stuff going on all the time. But I thought we'd cleared things up a little, at least. I've had a lot of time to think today. And I figured, I don't know what's going to happen next. But if we ran into a beast right now, I wouldn't want things to end like this. Why don't we give the good old honest heart-to-heart a try? Just this once.
Sepp stopped walking. She turned to look the deer in the eye with a very unconvincing attempt at a challenging expression.
I don't know, Adder. Can you be honest?
I'll do my best. I just want to talk to you again, like we used to.
Adder squeezed Sepp's hand within his own once more. It was more like her whole forearm, but she understood the gesture regardless.
I could be taking a warm-scented bath right now. I could be soaking my hooves in orange blossoms, safe in my reassurance that your story had run its course. You would be nothing more than a footnote in my diary tonight, if I still had it.
But you love me, but you're having an adventure, but you saved me. Alright, we got one saved. So, I'll say the music's kind of a nice little ambiance. It's like a banjo in the sewer. It's kind of funny. Oh, we're voting, yeah. Darn. Alright, saved. Going once.
But you found it in that heart of gold of yours to save me and give me a second chance.
Okay, first of all, this is not a second chance. We are not an item, Adderson.
Yeah, we never were.
And secondly, I didn't save you. I was saving myself.
Yep, we've been through this too. You're a petty asshole and you got a block of ice for a heart.
What? What's your problem?
Oh, you didn't like that, huh? Well, that's what it sounds like when you talk about yourself, Majesty.
I wouldn't quite go so far. I do not sound like... Can we go back to when you were scared of saying a word out of turn?
Not now. I figured out you keep spewing lots of radish stew about yourself, we can't.
I knew I shouldn't have let you in.
You didn't let me in. I snuck in because it turns out I'm pretty darn good sometimes. You like having me around you.
Around may not be the preposition I'd use for where I like you best, but I do regretfully treasure your presence regardless.
Needless to say, Eiler couldn't even begin to decipher the sentence, but he understood that her tone betrayed a smile despite everything. This still wasn't quite enough to quiet Sep's inquisitive nature, however.
Do you really want to be honest? Then stop using my feelings to deflect talking about yours for a moment. There may not be an appropriate reaction to finding out that beasts exist and your boss works for them, but I know you can't be taking this nearly as well as you pretend you are.
I don't know. I don't know how to feel when she lets me in on whatever's going on. Anything between this and that just goes in the little box of things I can't be thinking about.
It's not a banjo, what is it then? Is it like a... Man, I can't remember those, like, string board instruments.
Something tells me it's not precisely little.
That's something got anything to do with me giving some grand friggin' speech to the whole city while I was busy running up and down your thoughts?
Maybe. But we're talking about you now.
I gotta believe that the only thing that's changed is that she ain't my boss proper no more, now that her pa sacked me. Whoever and whatever she is, she's still the person I admire the most in Dakna. I gotta believe in her, like she believed in me.
Sitar. I'll have to look it up.
She's my best friend in the world, no matter what.
Tiny smudge of light, a single gleaming in the distance, grew larger and brighter as they approached the end of the sewers. Fresh air, a bright sky, and the brave LSRC waited beyond their torment. White soon turned to blue and white again, as Ina's arm waved at them from the other side of the conspicuously bent grill at the end of the tunnel.
That a good enough answer for you?
It will have to do for now. You've given me much to think about.
Hatter tilted his head, confused about the way she trailed off at the end, but no follow-up ever came. An ancient seawall crowned by a ruined lighthouse framed the view of the fierce waters below the serene skies above. A distant memory of a time where lost seafaring techniques carried vessels away from the shoreline. Adder eagerly trudged through the steps that separated them from a certain death in the waves of the high-tide sea and into Ina's arms.
Boss! I'm so proud of you! That was amazing!
Man, you smell like sewer. Ina's tail started to wiggle fast speed behind her, equally happy to see him and receive whatever compliments she could from after such a long day. The excitement sparking between master and apprentice didn't last long, for it soon became Adder's turn to use their one brain cell.
You could have clued us in on your plan back there, you know. What if we'd gotten lost along the way? That wasn't no plan. You just got mad we weren't paying attention to you, so you punched a wall and then rolled with it.
Ina helped Adler up with his final heave, a half hug and a non-committal smile.
Well, I sure as hey ain't fixing that hole for you.
Adler took both hands to his face and sighed. It was then he noticed that he had gotten drenched hugging Ina.
Oh, boss! You alright? You're soaked to the bone! Sheesh, even your tips are getting all faded now.
Adler was gonna pat Ina's head dry, but a thought struck him.
How'd that happen exactly?
Ina pointed down to the tunnel they came from and then back to the ground below them. She marched in place, covering her head, crouching down, and then spun back to her feet, mimicking the extraordinary act of swimming in the air. She then finished her act, casting an expected look in Adder's direction, tail still wagging behind her.
Good job, boss. Had a girl.
Satisfied with her reward, Ina started rummaging through her belt bags. After a short search, she produced the blue and white fabric she had been weaving since her previous night and presented it to Adder.
Do me a favor and hold on to that till I need it.
A little help here? I'd rather not drown in a sewage exit if it's all the same to you.
Ina and Adder both leaned over the edge of the wall to help step up. It's not like Ina really needed the assistance. She was strong enough to lift 8 or to 12 steps, but Adder felt the extraordinary urge to make sure that his little threat of a boss wouldn't drop the gazelle back into the water as a prank or something. At last, the three of them stood atop the wall. Like a promise of a new day, a chilly breeze blew behind them, carrying their woes towards an endless horizon.
See? I keep telling y'all there's always a way to make things right, and you never believe me.
I'll make sure to set my skepticism aside for you, if we're still alive tomorrow.
Yeah, don't hallucinate till you're out of the woods.
Ida nodded resolutely, like she had an idea what that phrase meant.
We ought to get moving. Ain't no way of knowing how long those things are going to be chasing Ina. I don't even want to imagine what they're going to think of me eloping with y'all's dad.
The smith smirked and started gesturing something that Adder couldn't slap down fast enough.
There is no point in making baseless conjectures. The sooner we react, the better indeed. Our next move could prove critical for the future of the city.
Our? Hold up. You coming with us? Like, of your own condition?
Volition?
You ain't ditching us?
Wow. You really think I care so little about the city I was raised in and its poor defenseless people?
Adder squinted his one eye at her.
I go where the sister of the captain goes, of course.
Ina bared her teeth at Sepp, trying to push her off.
Aw, what's wrong? You have a complicated relationship with your family too, little beast girl. Boop. Adder! Adder, look! Boop. Boop! It's like messing with a kid. I don't even have to try to make her mad.
If you don't quit that right now, I'm the one who's gonna flip out. Heads on the game, all right?
Aw, look what you've done, Aina. Here comes the big boar bro.
Sip, focus! It's our necks on the line here. Do we agree we gotta warn everyone then?
Got her in the boop. Sepp moved her eyes lazily from her little game, poking Ina's nose and trying not to get her finger bitten off, to Adder, who looked about ready to expedite the process.
Who does everyone entail exactly? Do you have a feasible plan this time? Or are you just set on running around the city screaming like a madman about the end of the world until you run out of breath?
No, of course not. That'd be dumb. I know better than anyone. This is way above our pay grade. The city guard should be taking care of it.
Those buffoons either didn't realize they had beasts hiding in their ranks, or they let them run free amongst their own. But if you want to try your luck with Elbar after ruining any future the two of us had together on top of that, please don't let me stop you.
Well, in my defense, if it wasn't for today, we wouldn't know about the wolves in the first place. You You think Lord Snotty Snout was in on this?
I may have fared better if he was some kind of conspirator, but alas, he's too self-absorbed to be capable of such evil. Beasts could have spent moons handing out bribes right under his nose, and he wouldn't have had the faintest idea.
I would have known, was the idea Sep left unspoken.
Who's left then?
Adder put both hands on his temples, trying to justice his gray matter into grayish ideas. Sep closed her eyes thoughtfully. Ina put a hand on her chin, so as not to be left out. Might actually be getting some interesting branches going on here. Let's tell Iligrab. What about Taylid? Or ignore them. Yeah, I know, it is a tough one, isn't it? What will he pick? What will he pick? Iligrab, Taylid, or ignore. Taylid. Though ignore them is sounding good. Ignore them sounds very much like an Ina response. She's like, "Yeah, let the wolves feast." Like Taylid hasn't been really mentioned all that much. I think that's the person above Iligrab, right? They do have to regroup. I mean, how much time do they have to do that, though? No one's making a decision. We'll have to make a decision, huh? Uh-oh. Well, we'll go with ignore them if no one else says anything. Ignore them going once. Ignore them going twice. Sploosh. Ina snorted wryly to herself, well aware of the fact that she wasn't actually invited to the brainstorming session. Walking with the feet as light as air, she climbed to the lighthouse to get a better view of their surroundings. Safe in her reassurance that she was the only one doing something actually useful. That's right. There was no one to call anymore. No one could stop a storm that had been brewing this long. It would swallow up the whole city. Ina looked down from her vantage point over the ruins. The whole city, save for a select few people that she didn't want involved, that is. There was still her, and all she could do was her level best to keep her friends from their very annoying company of choice safe. Ina sniffed the air. It smelled like an approaching thunder. Better take cover.
Now, I'm telling you, if we just took the time to find Iligrab...
Why can't you understand that Taylor would be a much better...
Ina pushed them away from each other, shutting both of their snouts with her hands. She then shook her head as she cut the air emphatically with her arms. She pointed at Adder and Sep and then opened her arms wide, only to cross them again. After much wriggling, Adder managed to scurry away from Ina's grasp.
Whoa, boss. A little slower. That's protect, right? So, not protect. None of that would be safe for us. That it?
Ina nodded. Then she bit her lip, trying to piece together a way to express her thoughts. She pulled her shirt, wrapped one fist around the other next to her heart, and tapped her nose quickly.
Mother, translate.
I think she's signing the beast can smell us? But not just smell us. They can smell, chest. No, heart? That make a single lick of sense to you?
Sep's mouth hung agape as she finally understood what Ina was trying to communicate.
They can scent the Hatsa.
And that means...
It means they can scent the Hatsa! Just how do you know that, Aina? Why are you so sure about that?
Ina's eyes narrowed into mere lines.
Well, they ain't found her for one, so whatever it is that is, she must be onto something.
Sep shot a glare in Adder's direction. She had no actual retort to this logic. That wouldn't result in at least half an hour of arguing, however.
Fine. That's not the concerning part. If what she's saying is true, that would mean they're capable of perceiving our very soul through their sense of smell. They could be magnitudes better at navigating a current than we could ever hope to be.
Adder joined Ina in nodding non-committally, as if either of them got any of that. Sep sighed with violence.
Imagine you could smell the waves about leaves in the sea when the wind blows in your direction.
Yeah, no, that's impossible.
No, it's not. Every action we take shapes both our connection to the Hatsa and that of those intersecting with us, which in turn shifts the Hatsa itself in infinitesimal ways we cannot even start to perceive or measure. That's the very essence of Sephihet.
You're at a level 10 of sepness right now. I need you to come down 2.
The gazelle made a brief choking motions with her hands.
If you don't want your Hatsa read through your gaze, you can close your eyes, yes. But you can't do that with your smell. There's no actual way to change or erase the unique essence your blood gives off, only make it less noticeable.
So in other words, they're like these two are gaze readers. They can read that stuff through scent.
So they can't smell where her thoughts are, because the sewers sink more than the sea.
It was Sep's turn to stare blankly at Adler. There was almost sense of wonder in her eyes, really. It was a look that told him she was actually herself, asking herself the important question, how could I ever think of associating with you as a sound idea?
Potentially, yes. Now, suppose strong smells actually confuse them. I hope you understand that I'm not willing to spend the rest of my miserable existence bathing in sewage on the off chance this pipsqueak is not making stuff up. Which finally takes me back to the original point I wanted to make. If Aina thinks this stench is our disguise, wouldn't it make more sense for us to hide using a scent that didn't remind them of the place we just escaped from?
Ina and Adder looked at Sep, and then they looked at each other. They huddled up for a few seconds as Ina started signing and making quiet noises.
No, she kinda got a point there, boss. What? I ain't taking nobody's side. I'm just saying that... Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Don't call me names!
Adder finally emerged from their little coven, reeling his fingers with apprehension.
So, here's the thing, Sep. You may not have noticed, because you lived here your whole life surrounded by fancy perfume and delicious soap, but coming all the way up from Tantroo, I can promise you this one thing. The first thing you notice when you walk into Erlem ain't the walls, ma'am. The city don't smell like roses. However, we diggity do agree this is the grossest thing either of us has gone through in a good long while. And I got no intention to let the one decent set of pants I own stay dyed green-brown for the rest of my stay here. If we want to find the middle point between our safety and our decency while we weather out the storm, we gotta make sure we're still blended in after washing up. And we can only do that...
Please say something intelligent.
...in a place that smells worse than we do.
Why? Why would you reach that conclusion? If all we need is to disguise ourselves, we may as well douse our bodies in spice and jump into a temple. They won't be able to tell either way.
Sure thing, Your Majesty. Name one shop in the city where 3 weirdos covered in crap can ask for a whole bucket of spices to jump in. How about I do you one up and help you find a good fire pit to save the beast the trouble of cooking that marinade?
I did not say it was a feasible idea. I was simply stating the fact there are better ones out there. We don't even need to change our scent too much from the usual, right? You usually smell like ash. Why don't we go hide in Anna's forge?
I mean, the smoke would be a real nice way to hide us, if it weren't for the fact that pyres tend to attract a lot of guards. But if you're so desperate to go back to smelling like flowers, we could always go and hide in the desert rose like we used to. I bet Miss Rochelle's gonna be real happy to see you in good company. Ain't she now?
Has anybody ever mentioned how lowly your rhetoric is?
If they have, I sure as hey didn't understand. So, there's the plan, ma'am. All in favor of finding a grid enough place where a bunch of beasts can't eat us and hide till we have a better plan, please raise your hands.
Adder raised one of his ridiculous hands. Ina raised both to match. Sep took a hand to her face.
The masses have spoken. All that's left is finding the place then.
Ina quickly tapped her nose and motioned her friends to follow her as she jumped back into the sewers, clearly set on a target.
That's the spirit, boss. Lead the way. Come on, Majesty. I'm sure that once we got a moment to sit down and rest our hooves, we'll all start making sense again.
If any of this starts making even an inch of sense to me, you can just go ahead and let them skewer me with my own horns.
Sep climbed back into the sewer entrance, closely followed by Ina's snickers. Adder remained on the ruins for a moment longer, engrossed by the last chance to marvel at the scenery ahead.
Hey, Sep, you get a feeling this place looks familiar somehow?
It's just the view of the palace.
Right. That gotta be it.
What Adder didn't say back then, and probably never said to her until the day he died, is that he just figured out the reason why their beloved low-tide beach was always empty. Oh, wow. The trio diligently followed Ina through the tunnels, none of them particularly willing to joke or bound or carry any light this time, around lest they attract any sorts of unsavory attention. They walked several blocks upstream, taking turn after turn through the many meanders that diverged into the darkness. So I just realized something. It's like if I did not get to the beach scene of the memories and was able to escape before that, I wonder if that would have been one of those statements that would have never, made its way into the story about the beach. They knew their exit was near when the brown streams nearly dried out and the bricks covering the ceiling to save the city from their sight of their own weight grew scarcer. Soon they were trudging through an open channel that delineated the beginning of the sewers as repurposed irrigation ditches from times where the slums had been filled with industrious researchers and architectonic projects. Oh, the palace crap. A time before the Barhan Rebellion and the expiration decrees, before slander and the new had become synonymous with murder. Now the gutter was as safe as a place to walk in the district. They followed Ina for what felt like hours until they emerged on a serrated edge of a cliff.
You could tell how much I love high places, I see.
Sep glared at Ina with a pressed grin. The smith smirked back, showing every last tooth.
Need me to carry you?
Not in front of that varmint, I don't.
Ina was rather certain that this was not the case, however, and selflessly volunteered to the task.
What? You think you're... Put me down, you beast! Put me down!
Ina read ahead, carrying the screaming Sep in one hand like a hot dish.
Would you look at that? Y'all seem like such good friends already.
Adder followed the girls up the narrow path ahead, skirting the vertical climb until they reached a rundown house that was dangerously close to giving up its foundations and just falling. Her lips formed a very concerned line as he found himself on his own doorstep.
Hey, boss. When Since when do you know where I live?
Shut up. This is your house? The house you share with Gioff. You mean to tell me he's been living like this?
Sep's horrified expression only lasted long until she remembered the company around her.
Hira be blessed. When you said you both lived in a shack, I assumed that would entail a building with a minimum of 4 walls.
Hey, it ain't so bad. We got 3.5, and a wonderful backyard with its own outhouse and everything. It's the brick box at the edge of the cliff.
Ugh. Ugh. I really should have taken you to the doctor before bringing you anywhere near me.
Sep made to step into the house, prompting Eder to casually put his whole arm across the threshold.
You know what? Now that I got a moment to think about it, I don't think this is such a hot idea. I'm not really allowed to bring guests over.
I'm sure the occasion merits an exception.
Maybe. But maybe actually truly we ought to hide somewhere else. Like a dump. I mean, it smells almost the same, but without the danger of running into my landlord.
We have far more serious problems than Gioff right now. Move!
No way! Nope, nuh-uh. You know, if it was about me, I'd say my home is your home. Except it's not. We can't hide in there. If I dragged any crap in, Mr. Bard would murder me.
You are going to get murdered either way, Adderson! Just let me take a bath!
Bath.
Yes, Adder dear. Lead me to the place where you purportedly used to wash yourself after roaming the streets before I stupidly lent you my own.
What?
That'd be ain't his tub, but boy, oh boy, there's no means to justify that end. No offense to your soap-making skills, boss, but I'm pretty sure those were just lye bars. I swear I was yellow all over before I started using that thing!
Though Dawson was a suffocating season to its own end, random licks of fire and strong gusts of hot wind full of embers weren't exactly commonplace, much less so specifically placed between two people. Both Adder and Ina turned around slowly.
I don't much care where or how, but I was promised a bath and a modicum of peace for going through with this stupid plan, Adderson. If I have to make you build a bathtub and fill it with your own tears to wash myself, I will.
That was not a promise. That was a promise, not just a threat.
Well, if you ain't picky as long as it makes me cry, I know a place we could go. Mr. Bard said there used to be a decent hammam down the street, but it was shut down a while before I arrived. They found the owner dead in real mysterious circumstances. No knife wounds or bashed in heads or nothing like you see around these parts. They say the bath's cursed now, and anyone who comes in never comes out.
I think I'll take my chances.
Yeah, sure thing. What's a little more cursing matter at this point? Right this way, then.
I dare not repeat the words Sep saved for Adder and his boss, as she was surreptitiously led back into the sewers, seeing as the gates to the baths were still locked.
Knock, knock! One fresh bucket of our finest water coming up for her grace.
God! How is it so cold?
We should be thankful the pump's working at all. Scrub 'em leggies like you mean it, or you won't be getting into the pool.
Hold on. Is this what I think it is? Bath episode?
Lynn, stop that. You're going to smear the ink.
This sure brings me back to my water selling days. Speaking of work, Aina, how are we doing over there? Boss, don't be like that. You know baths are good for you. We really gotta do this whole dance every time. Give me that sponge. Hey, come here. I gotcha. There's no escape now, you filthy rascal. Brush, 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 cleaning up the little boss.
Once satisfied with his work, Adder locked Ina's head under his arm and dashed to the contiguous warm room. It wouldn't be completely out of place to say Adder dunked a quasi-sparkling Ina into the pool.
And you better not go crawling out till I tell you. You hear?
Ina raised her head over the water with a little grim apparition. Hair on her eyes and murder all over her face. Her vengeance could not come to fruition, though, for it was misplaced by the sight of Sep's body clad in
What? What did Ina see?
a towel.
What?
Sep was wearing a perfectly decent bathrobe under the towel.
No, she wasn't.
Everyone wore perfectly decent, family-friendly towels and bathing robes beneath them.
I'm 14, not stupid.
Her vengeance could not come to fruition, for it was misplaced by the sight of Sep's body clad in nothing but a swimwear under a towel.
I swear to you that the first thing I'll do on my right day is come back and rewrite this.
Be that as it may, Ina could have set some world records on the speed at which she paddled to hide her panic.
Oh, look! The shy little cabbage is finally showing her true colors.
Sep followed her leisurely, running a hand between the threads of long silver white hair flowing aimlessly in the water.
Wow. Your hair color looks even more unreal than the dye, doesn't it? Like fine spider silk in the moonlight, or the world's finest linen thread. To be honest, though, I only thought it looked like rice noodles when I was a child. Yum.
Sep glanced back at Adder. He was preoccupying blushing his antlers furiously in the cold room. A rare moment removed from Adder's overprotectiveness for the both of them.
So you really don't remember me at all, do you? Who knows? Maybe you just need to take a closer look.
Never one to miss a chance to make someone else falter, Sep casually wrapped an arm around the short girl's shoulders.
Then again, I don't look anything like the child you knew, do I? I used to have really stubby arms and legs, so much so that Iligrab started calling me Pumpkin. Actually, I don't know if he started it, but it caught on. I became Pumpkin first and Sep second.
Sep's hand sauntered toward the top of Ina's head.
Well, anyway, whenever you carried me, he'd say it was so sweet. We looked like a pumpkin pie. Can you imagine that? You were anything but sweet carrying me back there.
The taller girl's fingers slowly traced the outline of Ina's increasingly red ears.
But you were always so patient with me when I was a child. Remember? You even let me chew on your ears whenever I was scared. Could it be my fault they look like this now?
Ina shrugged her shoulders, way past the line any shoulder is supposed to elevate.
You don't know? We could always check.
Sep made to take a small bite out of the tip of Ina's ear. In the last moment, she craned her head to rub her cheek against hers instead.
Honestly, I think I prefer it like this for once. You don't need to remember you ever knew me, Aina. I want you to see me as I am.
Hey, what's going on over there?
Plumbing wasn't an option, yeah. I remember, like in my my writing class in college that somebody wrote a quote unquote historical piece, and they were saying that the person quote unquote drew a bath, and like the teacher's like, you realize how long it would take to bathe in the olden times. It's not like something you quickly did after work. It's like you literally had to spend like several hours preparing this kind of stuff. Sep moved a smile away from Ina's face, leaving a flustered mess in her wake.
Nothing. Just watching a snowflake melt in the water.
Keep on calling her cute little nicknames. See how that turns out for you.
Every last remaining boiler went off in Ina's cheeks with the arrival of extremely misproportioned stag coming through the other end of the pool, leaving little to the imagination. But just to be clear, he was wearing a towel. It's just the steam.
Right, whatever. Just let me write some steamy prose about my ancestors.
All right, everyone. Soak up nice and good, take a dip in the hotter pool, back to cool, and then it's right back out. The water feels great, but we ain't got time to waste splashing about all day.
No. I need a bath, Adder. A long, warm bath for my health. Besides, it's a well-known fact that people get their best ideas while they're bathing. Though I'm sure you can't relate.
Hey now, you've been hip-deep in muck today. You don't get to make fun of me no more.
That's the thing about filth. Some of us actually rinse it off.
Ina laughed under her breath, making Sepp smile in kind, which in turn made Ina skitter away again.
See? Even your boss thinks you could use more baths. It's official now.
Yeah, right. She's one to talk, so to speak. Anyway, we should be running out right about now.
Adder couldn't keep his eyes from flicking towards Sepp's towel as she pulled her body close enough to bump shoulders.
It's been a very long day, and you did a great job tricking the beasts. We can afford to relax at least 10 minutes, don't you think?
No, it ain't the beast what's nagging me right now. I got a bad feeling about this place. It's too fancy. This ain't what a house that's been abandoned for a year and some slander's supposed to look like.
And that's a bad thing, apparently.
Ignoring the various obvious one-eye glare Adder was sending her way, Sepp kicked up her legs and shoulders inside.
Lighten up a little, dear. I'm sure Aina will be more than capable of arranging something for us if it turns out we are taking a bath on private property. It means you'll get to hit people very hard today if they bother us.
Awkward nod. Ina's best attempt to look reliable and menacing were cut short by the fact that she didn't dare turn around to look at the ruminants behind her. So, there they were. One gazelle stretching her legs, one deer anxiously glancing at the entrance, and one smith separated, desperately trying to hide her face from the rest of the world. This quietude, of course, wouldn't last.
So, tell me, Adder, is forcing your boss to take a bath part of your job description, or is that more of a labor of love?
It's a mantle I took up when I got tired of seeing her covered in soot every day. Y'all like to talk trash about me, but that's because you ain't seen Aina thrashing around in it. Bagging fleas is easier than dolling up this little menace.
At least it's PG enough to buy all these towels, dude. Yeah. Adder patted Ina's spotless white hair.
Iligrab says her dyes used to last months before I showed up.
Adder and Ina frowned at each other. Then her tail started wagging.
Whose fault is it, huh? Who likes hopping in the mud every time it rains? Oh, yes, it's you. Such a bad boss. Yes, you are.
Adder started scratching Ina's cheek and neck until her tail started wagging at full speed, splashing water all over the place. Smooch after smooch was pepped on Ina's little nose while she made some very half-hearted attempt to swat away Adder's face. Do only stop when noticing the blue eyes silently judging them from afar.
Oh, no, please. Continue. I have no intention of getting into whatever that was.
Hey, don't make it sound weird. I'm just glad, because I haven't gotten to be with her like this in a while.
Like this.
Sepp flicked her eyes back at their towels, then back up, turning both of their faces immediately red.
What?
To be honest, I'm a little disappointed. I was fully expecting you'd see her body and immediately say something like, "Bite at your beard, boss, boobies," or "Prex." Do you prefer either word, Aina?
Ina shrugged until her whole body slid sans ears underwater, blowing bubbles for all the response.
No way. I've seen chess before.
Mine doesn't count.
I wasn't counting yours.
I'm afraid not everyone can wear a cup like yours, Adderson.
Ina catapulted herself out of the water, banging the edge of the pool as she nearly cried her eyes out. Adder needed a second to understand.
No, hold up. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying I don't care about him. Not like I don't care for him. Y'all perfect from head to hoof. I just never really thought about it. Look, I like what I like, okay?
And what could that possibly be?
Like you didn't know the answer to that question.
Oh, I'm not the one who's wondering.
Sep raised her eyebrows in Ina's direction, startling the little wide-eyed Smith back into the water.
Sip, come on. Quit messing with us already. We ain't got time to be fooling around today. We're gonna have to go streaking through the slums if we don't wrap this up and do some laundry.
If you're so worried
And your
about our
towels.
schedule, why don't you go and get a head start?
You know what? I will. Because y'all making me feel like I'm the only one with half a sense of responsibility left.
Good for you.
Adder 100% accidentally dunked Sep's head in the water as he stood up. So Sep, completely by chance, tugged on Adder's towel as he walked out of the pool, making him squeak. Once the storm of giggles had passed, Adder grabbed his pile of dirty clothes and basin. He watched it fill with water, sitting down as physically far from Sep as he could all the while.
Sip, if I didn't know you any better, I'd say you're delaying this on purpose.
On the contrary, I'm maximizing our possibilities of survival. It's a very simple strategy, in fact. If we're going to hide, there's a possibility we'll be found. And if we're found, the most likely outcome is that we'll be brought to Elbar. He won't take me seriously when I encounter him if I look anything less than perfect.
Aren't you a little bit worried he may not care a whole lot about your looks after everything that happened today?
Of course not. I don't dress to impress the people who love me. I dress to impress the people who hate me. And I undress for the sake of the fashionably challenged.
Sticks and stones, Sip.
You should have really let me buy you new clothes when you had the chance.
Yeah, well, I would have fancier stains to wash off then.
Ina poked her face out of the water and pointed her left eye with a smile, making Adder groan in response.
Wait, what does that mean? Eye stain? A dirty patch?
Ina shook her head, laughing.
Adder, quick! I need more context.
It means I'm a dumbass who don't even know where his eye is anymore. Now, if y'all done chewing the rag, I could really use a hand with this.
Adder channeled what remaining little patience he had in presenting Sep with a basin of water and soap. Sep rolled her eyes with secret understanding, bringing a hand into the bottom of the recipient. The water started to bubble into the near instantaneous rolling boil.
There. Be gentle with my skirt, dear. Silk is very delicate.
Yeah, had her do everything as usual.
Adder turned around to get their clothes, mumbling something about delicate silks under his breath.
Well, thank you kindly for manipulating temperature for me, darling. It ain't like I could do it myself or nothing.
Sep sent a glance in the direction of her cooling down hand, opening and closing her still glowing fingers. Between the gaps, she spotted Ina's puzzled visage.
What? You didn't like my impression?
Ina tightened and loosened her hand into a fist like Sep had. On second thought, that was not an expression of confusion. Ina seemed absent, completely out of it. Her gaze was lost somewhere far beyond Sep's right ear. Her jaw was clenched with such strength that her mouth had almost disappeared. A completely unreadable face with intentions that remained a mystery. She simply focused back, startling Sep. In a desperate bid to stop whatever was managing to set her off so much, Sep reached for the smith's head and moved just by the vague expression that she'd seen Pardok do that before. It wasn't the whack of the cane this time, but a desperate caress. And just like that had come, it was gone, whatever it was. Ina remained completely unfazed beyond the obvious surprise in her face from the unexpected kind touch.
You're all right. Everything is, well, you're here with us now, so it's about as good as it could be. Focus on that.
Ina looked around, blinked slowly. She blinked slowly with big, dazed lilac eyes and then nodded, still looking a bit unsure.
I'm not great at this, am I? I'm sorry. If you're looking for a hug or something, you're going to have to ask.
It was only then that Sepp realized her hands were still burning white on Ina's skin.
Amazing. You really are immune to my fire, aren't you?
What in the name of oblivion y'all talking about? Fire? Did I hear that right? What just happened here? What were you trying to do now?
Calm down. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I mean, I don't think I could to begin with. I was just trying to...
I don't give a darn what you were trying. You and I are gonna have a chat on a little something called consent when we're done here, Missy. You all right, boss? You hurt anywhere?
Ina was fine, save for the huge increase in body temperature that had very little to do with Sepp's abilities.
She's fine, okay? Well, she's kind of not, but that's the whole point I'm trying to make. I couldn't hurt her on a physical level if I tried. She's invulnerable to my magic.
So what?
An alteration in your connection to the Hatsa, remember? That's how offensive Sephihet works. You can't just grab a rock and curse it. It doesn't have blood or any adequately prepared vessel to form a connection, right? The only living creatures that are not connected to the Hatsa and are therefore immune to alterations are plants. But does she look like a Makadar to you?
You ain't making a lick of sense, Sepp.
She put her hand on her temples, trying to make her logic make sense.
When I found Aina back in the brig, she was completely lifeless. And I don't mean that figuratively, Adder. She was a literal rock until I fixed that. I'm not sure of what she is, but she's not alive in the same way you or I are.
You're starting to sound like Bearbeth.
I hate to say this, but that's because he's right. Not about the golem part, of course. That's just nonsense. An object with an artificial bond would simply stop functioning if untethered, not disappear from everyone's memories. She must be a living being somehow.
She could have told you that. Sorry.
So here's the real kicker. She's not dead, and she is not alive. However, her whole sentience relies on the life essence provided to her, in the same way we rely on vegetal sustenance to keep us alive. If my deduction is correct, Ina's life force wouldn't be something organic or intrinsic, but rather applied to her and refillable. She's like a cursed mosquito, essentially. Before existing, she can recreate connections through the bloodstream.
What?
Okay, that may be too difficult. Let's go back to the facts. I deduced that the only way to wake her up would be sharing a bond with her. But try as I may, I could not form a new connection that would let me tether some of my own energy to her.
Okay, look, I gave up trying to understand this whole thing like 2 minutes ago, but that sounds to me like maybe you should try to take it easy with all the bond and stuff.
It just means that someone was dead set on protecting her from anyone else's influence. So I had to find a way to provide my own life force to refill whatever powers her connection to the Hatsa and wake her up again without a bond.
Ada and Eiler just stare emptily at Sepp. She sighed.
She's not alive. She's not a golem. She functions like a golem, meaning she needs external power to exist. Someone powered her up. That someone didn't want anyone else doing the same. But her source of power was broken. She needed power again.
Sepp turned her hand palm up and presented her forearm for them to see. A huge bite mark covered almost the entirety of it.
So I made her bite me.
Ada recoiled in horror. Ina took her hands to her mouth.
Why would you do such a thing?
I was all out of options, and I figured the sharp teeth had to have a functional purpose, obviously. It's called science, Adder. Look it up.
Are you out of your goddamn mind? Why didn't you tell me? You could have...
Ada looked at Ina, unsure of what he was going to say or why he was going to say it.
Because I knew you would act like this. Don't you get it? I brought her back to life. I brought you into my own mind. I even managed to channel your thoughts without having to say a single word to persuade you.
Sepp took her hands to Ada's chest and an ancient voice to his ears, eyes shining eerily in the reflections cast by the water.
And this is barely the beginning. Who knows what else I could achieve through these powers? What we could learn from creatures like her. If I could only find out how the beasts managed to deactivate her in the first place.
Ada grabbed Sepp's shoulders and gently tried to push her away, refusing to meet her eyes.
You really do sound like Bearbeth.
Adder grabbed the laundry basin and walked away from the warm room, reluctantly followed by Ina. Sepp was standing alone in the middle of the pool, dripping wet, and frowning like a child who had just been told no. She wasn't just going to let the topic be, of course. She followed them into the locker room, her interest shifting pointedly towards Ina once more. Though her first thought was heading straight towards her, she decided to take a very slow and deliberate beeline towards Adder instead.
Always the hero, Adderson of the higher field, protector of lost causes, defender of what needs not be defended.
Sepp smiled, throwing both of her companions off, then she turned to address Ina.
Funny that. He really seems to care a lot about you.
Adder didn't bother looking up from the fabric he was dousing in hard soap.
What's all the whispering for, Sepp?
Sepp didn't say a single word. She merely had to wait patiently in front of Adder's face for the boy to start bringing his own defeat. She always knew how to stand and how to speak to make his throat turn dry.
So how much does she know about our thing?
Sepp, please. You know me. I'd never tell no one nothing at all.
I meant about the reminders that our own little bout with science left on your body. But we're all ears if you have something you want to share with the room.
Adder's jaw hung loose as he turned his head towards Sepp and Ina.
No? Then I take it she's well aware then of all the nights we spent dining together in my room? Of your promise to entertain me at the risk of indebting yourself to me for life? Of your oh-so-moving proposal?
Ina took the bait, and Adder knew that Sepp knew that he knew, too.
She didn't need to...
I see. So the noble-hearted Sir Adderson had the gall to swear his eternal love and allegiance to me while keeping my existence a secret from his sweetheart.
Say what? No! I wasn't keeping you a secret from her. Specifically.
But you don't deny your feelings towards her. You just so casually forgot to mention that you spent all of dawn soon begging someone to untie your sash. I had a feeling that may be the case.
Adder's whole face turned so red it was painful. Still he spoke.
Say your piece, ma'am.
I didn't think you'd have it in you to cheat on anyone, Adder.
Ina's eyes grew bigger by the second, her emotions guarded under her scowl. She observed the scene regardless.
Iligrab roped you into this or what? I wasn't cheating with you, or on you, or whatever it is you're trying to spin this into. I ain't courting Ina. I saw no reason to tell her who I was dining with.
Those horns you were having for dinner, you mean?
Now that's not... Where the hell is this coming from, Sepp? I thought you said I didn't owe you any explanations.
And you don't. We established that much. But there's a third person in this room. Did she agree to any of this? Were you so scared she would let everyone know you're a horn eater somehow?
Ina's eyes were completely fixated on his now.
Well, no. Of course not. I just...
Tension of the situation was cut dramatically short by Sepp's sudden laugh.
Aw, did that fluster you? You should know by now I don't care either way, Adder. My business is a discreet one. I just delight in seeing you writhe under the weight of your own self-righteousness sometimes.
She turned to Ina with a grin that didn't end up quite mocking nor reassuring.
There you have it, Cabbage Head. He may be a liar and a coward, but for what it's worth, he loves you with all of his cheating heart.
I told you, it ain't like that. My conscience is clear as a sunny day, Missy. I ain't scared of what Ina thinks, because I know she don't give a friggin' bell pepper what it is I do with my life after work. Right, Ina? There ain't nothing between us.
The half-hearted nod Ina sent in his direction made Sepp's nonplussed smile shift into a smirk.
If there's nothing between you at all, then, it should be fine if I do this, right?
Sepp leaned towards Adder and stole a long, hungry kiss that severed any connection the boy had to the world of the living.
Yes! Feed me!
Frickin' teenagers. Ina's jaw fell to the ground. She could only move an index between Sepp and Adder, failing to even form the thought of required to attempt to sign anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to do that after all?
Adder mumbled something that could only make sense to the mind of a very touch-starved deer. Ina wielded this as the most pointed of arguments.
Ah, I see. So you did want to keep that kiss for yourself. It's okay. Here, you can have it.
My goodness. Adder's kiss was returned to Ina's via Sep's lips.
Yes!
Frickin' teenagers. Lynn, will you please stop doing that?
No.
Everyone stared at the dust floating across the steam. I can narrate, really. The temperature of the locker room was several degrees higher than it was when they first walked in.
That's all the reaction I'm getting? How can you both be so useless? No wonder you're so convinced there's nothing between you. I prided myself in being a better teacher than this, Adder. Wouldn't you like to share with Aina a bit of what you've learned? Or shall we go over the lessons together one last time, as a reminder?
Oh, Adder remembered. Adder remembered plenty, and he was about to give her a piece of his mind when...
That sounded like the front door.
Hey, I smell a lot of soap. Someone's been fooling around here.
No, trespassers? But the lock wasn't busted or anything. It's gotta be one of the new peeps overdoing it again. Hello? Is someone around here? You can come out. It's okay. We won't stab on sight. I promise.
What are those thugs doing here? Didn't you say this place was cursed?
It was! I mean, it was supposed to be. I told you it looked too nice to be empty.
Aina, it's your time to shine. Do something.
Ina's eyes snapped towards Sep. The only thing that shone about her was her teeth.
I don't think it's them you ought to be worrying about.
Fine. Go keep those thugs entertained. I can handle this.
Inconsiderate as he could be sometimes, Adder was never willing to abandon Sep to learn from the consequences of her own actions. A sharp slap where the tails began spurred him on, however. Next, the naked stag, with his towel, waddled towards the previously locked entrance, praying to God that he could name. A huge scarred whitetail and a burly musk deer turned to glare at him. Adder recognized the duo from previous instances of assault and battery on his person. Nothing he hadn't survived already and wouldn't survive again. Adder gulped and leaned towards the doorstep, trying to block the view of the locker while Sep escaped towards the farthest and hottest room.
Well! If it ain't Talkman and Darbon shaking up the shack. Fancy seeing y'all here.
Oh, it was someone new after all. You startled us, you naughty beanpole. What are you doing sneaking around here so early? The sun's still up.
Oh, nothing much. Usual hammam stuff, if you can believe it. This buck came here to wash up with some friends after we got real low and dirty today. Yep, it's me and my super buff friends here. So, please don't kill me.
Adder shrugged vaguely towards the steam-filled out room.
Oh, sounds fun. Hello?
A horrible growl and a big splash echoed all over the building.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of busy right now, doing, stuff.
Tis. This is why I hate the discreet guys. Talk about eager. I know this is slander, but sheesh. Manners, beesh. You ever heard of them? At least you had the decency to say hi. You new around the area?
No, I've been surviving uphill for a year and a bit. I'm pretty much a local by now.
You pulling on my leg? No. You ski off slab for reals? Save my horns for tinder. I ain't tried to mugs you since you was this big.
That's right. The fat roe was he. Oh, talk about going to waste. Oh, for shame.
For shame.
The ruffians nodded to themselves mournfully.
Why, thank you kindly. Now I think I look better too, but Stag's gotta love himself where he can, and where's the slander right now?
If I'd known you was gonna turn out like this, I would've cut you some slack.
I keep telling you, you can't rob every cute buck dry. You gotta leave them with enough to survive if you ever want a chance to find someone to settle with.
If they can't even wrestle a knife out of my hands, I wants nothing to do with them.
Adder wasn't the most perceptive of bucks, but every so often he could put one and one together on someone he was screaming two in his face.
Oh, so you two are... And this is the sort of place where y'all... Oh, what the hey? I've eaten my fair share of horns already. Y'all got some lovely racks there.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. That's very kind of you. We're gonna have to work on your compliments, though.
Ha! He's Geoff's lad, all right. So, how come we ain't seen none of this lankiness here? Mr. Asset didn't tell you about this place?
No. He did. But he mentioned a curse and...
Ah, yeah. The curse.
Ooh, him? That beast only visits on 5th days. He'll have your horns before you even had a chance to say hi, if that's your thing.
Ask Geoff's lad, will ya? For shame.
For shame.
The muggers laughed loudly, shaking their heads and patting Adder's back half mockingly, half reassuredly. They only stopped their inside jokes when they realized Adder had no idea what they were talking about.
I mean, you know why Geoff is so well known around Slander, right? Why he chose to live here?
Because he can't afford to be anywhere else?
Nay, the lad loves it here. He got the smell of money to him, but says he never felt he belonged more than when he ran away to the slums.
That crazy stumpy mushroom just sprouted up at Slander one day with his hat and his dramas and his bad music. You know Geoff. He lived his life so carefreely that a lot of us felt kind of inspired to find that strength in ourselves, or something like that.
You saying Mr. Bard started this?
No, of course not. Geoff wouldn't put an ounce of effort into making things easier for anyone if it cost him his life. But I guess he did kind of plant that seed inside of us.
In more ways than one.
Oh my. Adder pressed his lips into an awkward line as the older guys chuckled.
It's how it is, yeah? Lots of bad things happening in Slander, but we got enough to deal with go telling people how to lead their lives. That's why we don't let the guards anywhere around here. We figure to be a perfect place for a lot of folk. We may be crud, the bunch of us, but we keeps an eye out for those that got nowhere to feel home, and we'll peel the skins off anyone that dare lay a finger on them.
Well, some of us still adore having this little bit of privacy, though.
And big hunks of bulky meat. Loads of those in rough places.
Takomi pinched Darwin's saggy underarm, chuckling to himself.
I never realized this place had so much life, I guess. Something y'all want to protect, even here. It's kind of moving. For real.
Oh, this beanpole! You're secretly a poet, aren't you? Just ditch Mr. Big Hat already. You're gonna become a star someday, sweetie. Or at the very least, a niche market speciality.
Yeah, we're doing fine, Ramir. we're in the bathhouse episode.
Ah, find a whole lot of stuff to eat. You'll become the cream of the crops of Slander.
The couple laughed again. This time Adder joined in too.
Hey, speaking of eating, I'm afraid one of my friends is going to get a good bite if I don't run back soon. But, it's been great getting to meet y'all. I'll come hang out some other time, if that's all right.
But of course, dear. Take as much time as you need. Just make sure to clean up after yourselves when you're done.
Don't be a stranger, lad. Say hi the next time we beat you.
I sure will. Wait, what?
The two thugs stayed in the locker room getting ready for an evening ahead. Adder needed to get mentally ready for his own, too. He traced his friend's steps, signs of struggle rather, hurrying back towards the room he'd abandoned Sepp and Ina to their luck. An impenetrable wall of steam made it impossible to see anything inside. Though Adder was briefly tempted to grab his clothes and run far, far away, where he wouldn't have to deal with the fallout and the grief of whatever had become of Sepp, his sense of responsibility wouldn't let him budge. And so he walked into the room, a sense of extreme dread filling his chest.
All right, I'm here. Please don't be dead.
The only person who looked half dead was Ina, floating belly up in the hot pool next to a sitting Sepp, thoroughly soaked and covered in shallow cuts and soon-to-be bruises. Sepp glanced back as she waved.
What happened here?
Oh, Adder. I don't think you're old enough to hear about it. It seems your Horn-Eater meetup went well, at least.
Don't think I can't tell what you're trying to do. And let me tell you, it ain't working.
I'm not trying anything. On the contrary, I've always found curiosity a very attractive trait.
Well, I'm real curious about getting the hell out of here right after you tell me how you managed to pull this off.
I'm not going to get a rise out of you this time, I see. Please, allow me to demonstrate. Aina, sit.
Ina opened her eyes, stood up, and sat on the steps of the pool without a delay.
Now, do a handstand and somersault.
Ina obliged, and it was amazing.
All right already, I got the idea. Quit doing the magic voice thing.
No, you haven't seen the important part. Aina, good job. Who's a good girl? Oh, are you going to act all coy now that your boyfriend is here? Who's a good girl? You are. Yes, such a good girl.
Ina started shaking and drumming her legs so fast the floor threatened to break.
Hey, that's our thing. You stole it from me, you cheater.
Sepp raised her eyes condescendingly, but added nothing else. A quick worried glance back at Ina revealed that she seemed completely unconcerned about both this extremely uncharacteristic display and literally anything else in the world.
You sure you're okay with this?
Ina cocked her head at the question, okay with what? She seemed to ask, as if this was the most natural and evident things that she'd ever done in her life.
I don't know what happened. She went from trying to drown me to being at my beck and call. Not even a smidge of attitude about it until you came back.
Yeah, she could be a little bit like that. Foaming at the mouth, raging one moment, and the next she's asking you for sugar. I got this nagging feeling in the back of my hunch there's got to be some itty-bitty tiny detail you're keeping from me all the same.
You can just see for yourself if you don't believe me.
Adder sat down next to Sepp, observing as she put Ina towards her, starting to scratch her jowls to demonstrate the smith's magnitude.
It ain't like I don't want to believe you, ma'am, but I reckon you'll forgive me if I'm a little suspicious after that whole science tirade.
Who knows? Maybe I really fried her mind when I let her eat me.
Bite! Bite! You made her bite you! Oh, why are you like this, Sepp?
Because it bothers you. Why else?
Yep, full on furry now. Sit, good boy. Oh my goodness. I mean, I didn't know what kind of creature she was when we started the game for Ina, but it's like, yeah, she's got some canon going there. Sepp lifted her arms, raising Ina from her bliss, only to shift her attention to Adder.
Won't you let me bother you both?
Bother us! Gee, Sepp, like you ain't done enough of that today.
Adder's eyes shifted toward Ina. Sepp immediately grabbed him by the cheeks and turned his head back to her.
Are you really going to ignore me twice and then crawl back when we're alone? Keep playing dumb until the end of the world so no one gets hurt? Wouldn't you rather be honest with yourself for once and seize everything you want? You don't have to choose every time, Adder.
All right, that's it. Time out. This ain't no time to be talking or kissing or any other ends you got in your head right now, ma'am.
So when will it be? I'm afraid that between getting eaten by a pack of beasts and murdered by the fiancé you stole me from, my schedule may be a little tighter than usual in the foreseeable future. You want to spend our time wisely? Then get over whatever deep denial complex you two have, and let's just
focus on the situation at hand. Right, boss?
Oh no.
It ain't like we got them self-denials or any of that radish stew you're trying to feed us. We're, Smiths, yeah. Iron-hearted folk. We're the best at staying focused. You won't distract us from our mission.
I'm not trying to... Fine, you're hopeless. I give up. Just humor me for a second, and I'll leave you alone. Hold your hand for me, that's all I ask. If you two die without ever having held hands, I'm going to be really mad at myself.
Adder and I looked at each other, then they looked at Sep.
Just holding hands? And you promise you'll lay this whole thing down?
I promise. You do still remember how I feel about promises, right?
Adder couldn't even keep his gaze on his boss as he wrapped one of his massive hands around her hand and wrist and forearm. Ina held onto one of her fingers in exchange.
Your form is unorthodox, to say the least. But it will do. Now, what are we thinking?
Do we have to do this?
Indulge me.
I'm thinking one of these shovels would be enough to scoop her up.
Gods, I know. And how does that make you feel?
Good. Embarrassed. It makes me feel like I want to protect her.
Great breakthrough. But is that something you want, Aina? Do you want Adder to protect you and hold you and tell you what a nice little boss you are?
Ina glanced away like she hadn't heard.
I asked you a question. Is that what you want?
Quit it, Sep. You know she can't give you an answer.
It's a yes or no question. She can move her lips or bend that tree stump she has for a neck, I presume.
Well, she don't gotta answer you.
I suppose that's true. Nobody has to do anything if you boil it down to a matter of personal obligation. But you can't just trudge through life expecting others to understand your every need without letting them know how you feel. That's not fair.
Oh, and you're an expert on fairness now.
You're the one who taught me that, you clodpole. Why are you being so difficult about this? I'm giving her the chance to tell you she wants you herself.
She can't tell me.
But you can know.
She can't let me know what she don't think to begin with. Leave her alone.
Sep surrounded Adder's neck with her arms, apparently leaning in for a hug. And she let herself fall backwards in the pool, dragging the boy's head underwater with her. Adder struggled for a moment, flailing and trying to pull away, but when he finally opened his eye, he saw her, intense blue eyes staring back at him, dying to be heard.
I don't care if she's a beast, a doe, or a dehorned gazelle, Adder. Eka talks about Aina like she was her sun, her stars, and Baitatse itself. Trust me, I know. Mom used to talk about me that way. I have no idea how long one of their cycles is supposed to be, but seeing how feeble Aina's connection to the world is, there should be no way any of them could remember her past a couple of days. Not unless they were being actively reminded. I'm trying to get close and wear her down for a reason. I know it's cruel, but I beg you, stop getting in the way of my plan.
Adder had to hold back the physical need to sigh underwater. Turned instead into a stream of bubbles leaking out of his snout. He focused, thinking about with his mouth closed.
Look, Sep, you're real smart and I'm not. You know something's wrong way before I do. I got no clue of curses and cycles and whatnot either. But I've never had a problem remembering Aina. Not a single day since I've known her.
That's the thing. You see her every day. You don't have to remember anything. Even just hearing her name would be enough to jog your memory most of the time. We've been through this. You wouldn't even know if you had forgotten. This is not the time to lull on loyalties anymore. I need your help to learn if she's truly devoted to you, or if she's just been fattening you up so her sister could bite off your...
Adder put a whole hand over Sep's face and lifted her head out of the water, effectively shutting her up. He only followed her out tentatively once it was clear she had gotten the message.
Fine. Have it your way. Show me I taught you better than we both thought.
He'd be the one dealing with his friend. No magic or conspiratorial whispers required. Adder took a long look at Ina, who was looking at them from the steps, clearly unbothered by the apparent murder attempt. He heaved a real sigh this time.
Boss, you know I love you, right?
Ina blush shone over her white hair. She nodded quickly with her head low.
I'm told I'm real darn fond of secrets for how much I talk. Thing is, I've been thinking a lot about what love is these last few moons. No, that ain't quite right. I've been thinking about what it means to love someone. What it means to me, anyway. I always thought loving meant caring. Wanting someone special to be well all the time. To be that perfect little shine in your eyes. Because I thought loving meant seeing only the good parts of the one you love. Defending them, even from your own thoughts. Sep here made me realize that when you live pretending someone's perfect and everything's fine in the world because you're together, you're not looking at what's in front of you. You're loving a whole other person you made up in your own head.
Adder took a deep breath. Sep sent a concerned look in his direction, but he shrugged it off.
I'm sorry, boss. I've really tried my best to let it be. To make like I couldn't notice when things were out of place. But this whole thing is a lot. It's way too much. It's way, way, way past that. We're all in danger. Or at least, me and Sep are.
Ina's throat moved with a gulp. The corner of the room stood narrow and suffocating in contrast to how Big Adder seemed to loom over her.
I love you. And I know somewhere down there, you love me too. That's why I think it's time you came clear about some things.
Are you a beast or what are you? Like, I don't know how Ina's going to answer that question, because most of them are more than just a yes or no thing, and Ina's not really capable of talking in long sentences. What are you?
You're not a doe, and I know that. What are you then?
Oh, sorry, Ramir. Didn't see your response there. Ina's mouth moved senselessly.
You won't get anywhere asking questions like that. Remember, mind the envelope more than the letter.
This really ain't the time for riddles, Sep.
Didn't you want to be in charge? Then figure it out, Adderson. I'm not going to sit by and watch you do a shoddy interrogation job.
Are you a beast?
Are you a beast, Ina?
Ina furrowed her eyebrows, confused. She shook her head slowly, unsure.
You don't know either?
She's not quite telling the truth, but it doesn't seem like she's lying.
You think the patron could take such a big chunk of memories out of someone that they forget what they are?
I couldn't even start to guess. She may have never known to begin with.
Sep sounded a little more affected than usually as she trailed off.
So, I'm gathering you really knew the beasts then. Yeah, 'cause you're sister after all, huh?
Ina shrugged her shoulders until her neck disappeared, then she nodded.
So, you're a beast too then?
Not necessarily.
Say what? Why are you replying for her now?
Because you're making stupid assumptions about how families work. Just stick to the facts.
You acted like you didn't know them, but it's pretty obvious that just couldn't be. What are you to the beasts, Ina? Why do they admire you so much?
Ina tried to walk back, but she only found the wall behind her. Her lip started to curl.
3. Make the question any more open if you can.
What's that even mean? So wait, is the patron your paw for real, or?
Ina nodded, confused. She didn't seem to understand what Adder was getting at.
What in the name of the Hutsa is for real supposed to mean here?
I don't know, maybe she's adopted, or...
And what's that to you?
Right. Sorry. When we were alone, Eka said you'd asked to get me on board. You wanted me to be part of the crew. So that means you knew they'd be coming, didn't you? What they'd be coming for.
Ina shut her eyes with a fear Adder had never seen in her. She nodded.
You really did know about this whole thing. That's fine. There wasn't no way you could've... Yeah, I bet they were just dragging you along, you poor thing. I mean, I know if you could've done something about it, you would've. My Aina ain't so heartless as to let something like that slide. No way. No way.
Ada's mouth hung open, her lip trembled, forming words devoid of all sound.
What is it? If you know something, you gotta tell us. This isn't about you and me anymore, boss. Yes, I'm sorry. I know you can't really say anything, but...
I don't know what I was thinking. This is literally painful to watch. You tried it your way, Adder. Now step aside. I'll get all the information we need.
What did I say? Hands off! Don't you dare stick your mind pokers in her.
We need to know what she's hiding.
She gotta choose to share with us.
And we suddenly have all the time in the world for that? When will you stop coddling her?
I'm not...
I didn't just escape getting burned in a steak to get roasted for a feast!
Leave Aina alone! She'll tell us when she tells us, Kay?
Heather clung to Ina, trembling like a newborn fawn, far more scared than the girl in question looked. This told Sepp everything she needed to know.
I should have realized sooner. Of course you were just projecting all along.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. It means nothing at all. We all want to protect ourselves in the end. I can hardly blame you for it. Let's just leave it here. I don't want either of you exploding.
Sepp turned her back against them, whispering something only she knew under her breath. Master and apprentice finally crossed glances again, as meekly as they did everything important, but so different from any other time. It was the first instance ever in recorded history Ina losing a staring contest. The smith simply joined Sepp in looking away from Adder, as she reassuringly patted his arm. It was fine. He'd be fine. They'd all be fine. The sound of a bucket falling from them made them turn around.
What?
Adder took a long look at the situation. His rundown shack, Gyoff, Sepp, Ina, himself. A theater play in the making, of the murder mystery kind.
Of all the malfunctioning hunks of metal in the world, how could I ever place my faith in you? Aina, you deceiving machine! You were supposed to defeat them, not join them!
Wait, what? What do you mean, defeat us? Didn't you hate each other?
Oh, Hirab, don't tell me you ran bragging to him.
No need! I can feel the heat in the air!
That was steam, Gyoff.
Steam? Steam? I should have let them steam you in the trial this morning! Backstabber! Traitor! A fine friend you are!
Oh, you have any of those left?
Sure he does. He's got me, and I can promise you that Sepp got no clue we knew each other at all. See, turns out I met her like a year ago, and I kind of helped her, and then we met again in the slums, and she offered to tell my fortune, and...
Fortune teller, yes, and I'm a gardener. In my many years working with tools, I've learned to call a spade, and a hoe a hoe.
Now, it's Jeopardy taught me anything. It's a rake, sir. Anyway.
And yet you still have the gall to call yourself both a bard and my brother.
Easy now, you two. That's not how bros should talk to each other.
Good thing we're not siblings, then.
Oh, how I wish if that were true! Then I wouldn't have to bear the need of removing my eyes for having witnessed such a scene! Ugh!
Always the drama queen.
You, of all people, should not be talking about queens, honey!
Then you should not be lecturing me on who I lay with. Or are you just jealous I got to him first?
Oh, it's on, you little...
Can you two shut your snouts for 1 second?
All their neighbors echoed the thought of the far with less gracious words. Adder pulled his hand back little by little, shifting his remaining eye to between the two.
Gyoff, we got something real important to tell you. So how about we all take a nice, deep breath and calm down for a...
Calm down! You should have thought of that before taking my sister to bed!
I wouldn't have even looked in her direction if I'd known that! I mean, to be fair, it hasn't happened once since I found out, so...
This was a recurring thing? No, don't tell me! I don't want to know!
Please. You shouldn't even need to ask.
If I'm asking, it's precisely because I know you, Oma Septuk. I know that little rotten, cynical mind of yours like it was my own. What were you hoping to achieve by tangling this poor little fool in your wiles?
I wasn't trying anything. I'm only here because I wanted to help.
Help? Help who? Help me become an uncle? Help Adder fight his profound loneliness? What kind of help could you give anyone? Haven't you broken enough families yet?
Stuff a sock in it, Gyoff. You ain't got the foggiest idea what Sep's been going through.
Oh, and you think she's bared her soul to you just because she's bared her ass?
Ina choked at the quip. She did her best not to break into laughter as Adder himself got ready to break Gyoff's face. The gentle push of Sep's hands on Adder's chest was enough to stop him.
I burned him. On purpose.
Gyoff's nostrils flared as his eyelids slid down.
You even gave him your name.
Everyone seemed to fall into a contemplative silence. Everyone, that is, save for Ina, who had been hearing about burns all day and still had no clue what anyone was talking about anymore. Even Adder failed to notice how obviously lost she was. He could be forgiven just this once, to be fair, though he was far better informed and truly thankful for this brief respite Sep had brought Adder. Two lacked the context to fully grasp the secret understanding shared between the siblings. Ina cast her sight down, dejected. She would surely catch up with the conversation somehow.
You think we should tell him now?
Gyoff's eyes sprung open again.
Tell me what? And you say you've seen all of this happen, and it wasn't just a figment of Adder's imagination.
They were real, Gyoff.
And they were hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Gyoff needed a moment to assess the situation.
All right, that's as good of an excuse as any to finally turn a page in the story of our lives. Pack the bowls and the lamp. I have to gather a few provisions for the way. We'll be out of town before nightfall.
Whoa, hold on, Bard. You're running like a scalded reindeer. You sure you want to get like that? On just our word? I know you worked real hard for this place.
Adder, my lad, what kind of self-respecting bard would leave his best friend alone in his darkest hour? No, what kind of herald would do such a thing? I swore that I would make you a knight, and a knight I'll make you, be it here or at the end of the world.
So what's the actual reason?
Can't you see, you hoofhead? The city is brimming with beasts, and you're eloping with a knight's fiancé. Of course we're leaving. Yes, you can come along too, you piece of junk. We'll just ransom you to your father later. Go get started on a note. So, how does Daldybrew sound? Too swampy? Oishet! How about we go touring the western limits instead? I'm sure the Cheetahs would be happy to have more heirloomite musicians to boo.
But it ain't like you're just fixing to sneak out, right? I mean, someone's gonna warn the rest of the city. Tell everyone what's coming to them. There's a whole darn lot of people in danger out there.
Like ships in the night, Adder dearest. We live in wonderful times where we can just ask the Farthigan a few towns over to send sound blooms to all the friends we're leaving behind.
And what will I tell them then? Hey, y'all, I'm so sorry I left y'all here to get digested. We can't abandon everyone to their luck.
Sep, tell your boy toy that we have to leave right now.
I don't know, we gotta stop at some point. It's already 8:40. Maybe this is where we stop. Alright, no, we're gonna fix it, alright. Oh, we have a disagreement. I gotta pee. What we can do is we can leave it for next time and we'll decide. because we have a match here, so we'll and it's like I'm not finding a good stopping point. I'm like, well, maybe we'll leave it at this cliffhanger here. So come with a response next time. Can't lose everything, or we can still fix this. All right. So let's see. Next week is the 24th. We need to work on your streaming. I know, right? We're at frickin' number 6 now. Like this game's going on for a bit. Though we are in chapter 4, I would say probably about halfway. So probably a few weeks left. So definitely a long one for sure. Very interesting story. Anyways, we'll continue our story on next time, and have a good evening, everybody. And we'll see you guys next week.